refuses an invite. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. And so the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sahbihi wasallam, and he replies, maybe your husband is the one who has whiteness in his eyes. And so she returns home. And she opened up one of the eyes of her husband. And he immediately said, what's wrong with you? And you doing? Open up my eyes. She replied, that the Messenger of God started to inform me that you have whiteness in your eyes. And then he said to her, you're out of your mind. Is there anybody who doesn't have whiteness in their eyes? Everybody's got whiteness in their eyes. Could he say it to his wife? Huh? The Rasul said, once again, be light with her. Like, one of the things that you should take from this, again, we've seen examples, and every example that the Imam rahimahullah ta'ala brings is an example of women. Although a lot of the actual traditions, also like the tradition of the baby camel, there's actual tradition of a Bedouin man who was a man. And so you can see it's not just women who are asking the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it's also men. But one of the things you also should get from that the Imams rahimahullah ta'ala, the Sahaba, that they are accustomed to jid min al-Rasul. As we said, jid. The Rasul serious sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because the affair of the dunya and the akhirah is an extremely serious affair. And so when the Prophet speaks, and the khalas tilqa'iyan, and they move towards what? They move towards the literal of what the Rasul is saying. You see, they did not see the humorous side of it, quote unquote, and from the get-go, radiallahu ta'ala anhum wardahum, because what they're accustomed to from the Rasul is jid, jid. He's serious, because the affair that he's brought is an extremely serious affair. No affair more serious than the affair that he came with, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama. A woman once said to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Messenger of God, pray to God that he enters me into paradise. He enters me into paradise. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, O mother of so and so, old people do not enter paradise. So she turned around and began to cry. In a riwayah, she asked the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Al ajuz tadkhulu jannah. And does an ajuz, like the old people, enter paradise? And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ajuz la tadkhulu jannah." And old people don't enter paradise. The riwayah states that the woman in question, which again accents the point even more, is the very aunt of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They say it's a Safiya. And Safiya is the full sister of Hamza and Ibn Abdul Muttalib radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, and the mother of Zubair. And mother of so and so, Zubair, saying Zubair. And how often with the Prophet ﷺ, rather call and saying that Zubayr, Ibn al-Awam, his father is Awam, the brother of Khadija. He would call him Ibn Safiya, the son of Safiya. The Rasul ﷺ would call Zubayr. And so now it's his mother, saying to Safiya, who's asking the Rasul ﷺ, Al-Ajuz tadkhulu jannah. And I'm saying to Safiya, radiallahu anha wardaha, in approximately the same age as the Prophet ﷺ. Approximately the same age. And so now she turns around and she begins to cry in a sense uncontrollably. It's just that the Rasul is not able to address her directly. And so the Rasul says, inform her that she will not enter paradise as an old woman. Shuf, bushra. No, quote to go from moments of sadness to moments of elation. Because in the beginning she's asking generically, do old people enter paradise? Now the Rasul doesn't want to answer in a generic way. He wants to answer in a very, very personal way. Like the love he asked for his aunt, radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha, that inform her that she will not enter paradise as an old woman. And then the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam recites elements of Surah Al-Waqi'ah. And verily we created them as a special creation. Inna ansha'nahunna insha'a. That special creation, we created them, we recreate them as a special creation. As the Rasul informs us inside the Sahih al-Bukhari, that all human beings now, when they're now proceeding onto Jannah Allah, into paradise, they're going to be commanded to submerge inside of a river that is what before Jannah. And that river is called Nahrul Haya, or it's called Nahrul Haya. I translated as the river of modesty, or the river of life. Al-Haya, with a Hamza, modesty. Al-Haya, Tal Marbuta, life. Okay, in the riwayah in Bukhari is a Shaykh al-Rawi. Did the Prophet say Al-Haya, or did he say Al-Haya? Shaykh al-Rawi, and some say it was Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala in the transmission, which was what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Wa illa say that what Al-Haya haya. That's the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, modesty is life. Al-haya, haya. And so the river is both the river of life as well as the river of modesty. And then thereby once one submerges inside of that river, then they come forth, inna insha'nahunna insha'a. They come forth as a brand new creation. And of what? Of the distinct elements now is that they'll have the age of the son of Mary, the age of Jesus alayhi salam. Jesus upon his first ascent to the heavens, upon his first ascent to the heavens, with the difference of opinion, was he 33 years of age or was he 34 years of age? Jesus, son of Mary alayhi salam. And so that's the age of everybody inside of Jannah. And that's how kind of verily we create them as a brand new creation. Inna ansha'nahunna insha'a. Ja'alnahunna abakara. And so we made them virgins. Yeah. Uruban atraba. Okay. Uruban atraba. Urub, I'd say where we got Arab from, beautiful. Okay. Atraba, I got atraba. Equal age. Everybody will have the same age inside of paradise. Hakad Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِأَصْحَابِ الْيَمِينَ, yani for the company of the right. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Allahumma ja'alna minhum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and render us all from them. This is the chapter of the humor of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Hakad the Imam rahimahullah ta'ala. Glory be to the one who distinguished him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam through beautiful character. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the Prophet ﷺ always deals with people accordingly. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And it's not going to be said that anybody who dealt with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam could use the Rasul himself sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as an excuse not to take from him. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They're going to use something about him as an excuse to turn away from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's one of the things we know about the Anbiya themselves, that there's nothing in the prophets that is munaffira. Munaffira, the Imam say, there's nothing in the prophets that would cause somebody to stay aloof from the Prophet, to stay away from the Prophet, to move in the opposite direction. La bil'aqs, tamaman. And the prophets themselves, they are attractive and they attract. Okay? But often that attraction, quote unquote, can bring about sort of untoward behavior on behalf of those inside the environment of the prophets themselves. And often and issues of war, issues of reviling the prophet, etc. And so glory be to the one who distinguished him, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, through beautiful character. And moreover, glory be to the one who distinguished him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, through tremendous character. Khuluq azim, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, more than it being beautiful, okay? And in chapter 15, which is the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, قال ابن سيد الناس رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا به وبكم في الدارين آمين. ذكر زوجاته صلى الله عليه وسلم. تزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم خديجة بنت خويلد رضي الله تعالى عنها، وهي بنت خويلد وقد سبق ذكرها. ثم سودة بنت زمعة بن قيس بن عبد شمس بن عبد بن النضر بن ناصر بن مالك بن حسل بن عامر بن لؤي، وكبرت يعني كبرت عنده فأراد طلاقها، فوهبت يومها لعائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها، وقالت لا حاجة لي في الرجال وإنما أريد أن أحشر في زوجاتك رضي الله تعالى عنها. ثم عائشة بنت أبي بكر عبد الله بن عثمان بن عامر بن عمرو بن كعب بن سعد بن تيم بن مرة، تزوجها صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم بمكة قبل الهجرة بسنتين، وقيل ب3، وهي بنت 6 أو 7، وبنى بها بالمدينة وهي بنت 9، ومات عنها وهي بنت 18 سنة، وتوفيت سنة 58، وقيل غير ذلك، ولم يتزوج بكرا غيرها، تكنى أم عبد الله رضي الله تعالى عنها. ثم حفصة بنت عمر بن الخطاب بن نفيل بن عبد العزى بن رياح بن عبد الله بن قرط بن رزاه بن عدي بن كعب، روي أنه صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم طلقها، فنزل جبريل عليه السلام فقال إن الله تبارك وتعالى يأمرك أن تراجع حفصة فإنها صوامة قوامة. وفي خبر قال رحمة لعمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما. وتزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم أم حبيبة رملة بنت أبي سفيان صخر بن حرب بن أمية بن عبد الشمس بن عبد مناف، وهي بالحبشة، واصطقها عنه صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم النجاشي 400 دينار، ولي نكاحها عثمان بن عفان رضي الله تعالى عنه. وقيل خالد بن سعيد بن العاص رضي الله تعالى عنه، وتوفي سنة 44 رضي الله تعالى عنها. وتزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم أم سلمة هند بنت أبي أمية بنت المغيرة ابن عبد الله بن عمر بن مخزوم، وماتت سنة 62 وهي آخرهن موتا. وقيل ميمونة رضي الله تعالى عنها. وتزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم زينب بن جحش ابن رئاب ابن يعمر ابن صبيرة ابن مرة ابن كبير ابن غنب ابن دودان ابن أسد ابن خزيمة، وهي ابنة عمته أميمة. توفيت بالمدينة سنة 20 وهي أولهن وفاة وأول من حمل على نعش رضي الله تعالى عنها. وتزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم جويرية بنت الحارث بن أبي ذرار بن حبيب بن عائذ بن مالك بن المصطلق، سبيات في غزوة بني المصطلق، فوقعت لثابت بن قيس بن شماس فكاتبها، فأتت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم تستعينه في كتابها، وكانت امرأة ملاحة، فقال لها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم خير من ذلك، أؤدي عنك كتابك وأتزوجك، فقبلت، فقضى صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم عنها وتزوجها، وتوفيت سنة 56 رضي الله تعالى عنها. وتزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم صفية بنت حيي بن أخطب ابن سعنة ابن ثعلب ابن عبيد ابن كعب ابن الخزرج النظيرية من ولد هارون عليه الصلاة والسلام، سبيت من خيبر، فاعتقها صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم وجعل عتقها صداقها، وتوفيت سنة 50 رضي الله تعالى عنها. وتزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم ميمونة بنت الحارث ابن حزم ابن بجيد ابن الحرم ابن رويبة ابن عبد الله ابن الهلال ابن عامر، خالة خالد بن الوليد رضي الله تعالى عنه وعبد الله بن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما، وهي آخر من تزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم. وتوفيت سنة 51 وقيل سنة 66، فإن ثبت ذلك فهي آخر من مات منهن رضي الله تعالى عنها. هؤلاء خير خديجة اللاتي ماتت عنهن صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم. وتزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم زينب بنت خزيمة أم المساكين رضي الله تعالى عنها سنة 3 من الهجرة، ولم تلبث عنده صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم إلا يسيرا 2 أو 3 وماتت رضي الله تعالى عنها. وتزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم فاطمة بنت الضحاك، وخيرها صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم حين نزلت آية التخيير، فاختارت الدنيا وفارقها صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم، ثم كانت بعد ذلك تلقط البعض وتقول أنا شقية اخترت الدنيا. وتزوج صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم إسافة أخت يحيى الكلبي رضي الله تعالى عنها، وخولة بنت حذيل، وقيل بنت حكيم، وهي التي وهبت نفسها له صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم، وقيل تلك أم شريك. وأسماء بنت كعب الجونية رضي الله تعالى عنها، وعمرة بنت يزيد ابن الجون الكلابية رضي الله تعالى عنها، وطلقها صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم قبل الدخول. وامرأة من غفار، فرأى صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم بها بياضا فألحقها بأهلها. وامرأة تميمية، فلما دخل صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم عليها قالت أعوذ بالله منك، فقال منع الله عائذة الحقي بأهلك. وعالية بنت ضبيان طلقها صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم حين أدخلت عليه. وبنت الصلت، وماتت قبل أن يدخل عليها. ومليكة الليثية، فلما دخل عليها قال حبي لي نفسك، قالت وهل تحب الملكة نفسها للسوق؟ فصرحها صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. وخطب امرأة من مرة، فقالت أبوها إن بها برصا، ولم يكن بها شيء، فرجع فإذا هي برصا. وخطب صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم امرأة من أبيها، فوصفها له، وقال أزيدك أنها لم تكن تمرض قط، فقال صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم ما لهذه عند الله من خير، فتركها. وكان صداقها لنسائه صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم 500 درهم لكل واحدة، هذا أصح ما قيل، إلا صفية وأم حبيبة رضي الله تعالى عنهم أجمعين. And on the chapter of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the tradition of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we looked at in yesterday's class, of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has a profundity of love for women sallallahu alaihi wasallam. يحبب إلي يعني الثلاث يعني three things have been made beloved to me من دنياكم. حبب إلي من دنياكم. يعني the more asah riwayah that from the world 3 things have been made beloved to me, he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam. النساء والطيب وجعلت قرة عيني في الصلاة. He said women, perfume, and the coolness of my eye has been placed inside of prayer. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there are going to be 3 types of relationships that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has with women, yani umuman, in general. And the first relationship that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has with women is no relationship with women. We mean women in terms of quote unquote, yani wifri, yani. There's no relationship. And so that's what you call uzab, and uzab, uzab, and the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, a bachelor. And the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he does not get married to Sayyidina Khadija for 25 years. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And what we can find inside the society of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, around 10 years of age, up to 15 years of age, adi, that normal for a man to get married. And so the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, late in marriage, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What is the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam showing us therein, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? It's the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. The messenger of Allah, for you and the messenger of God, is the best example, the perfect example. And so the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is going to set an example for every type of relationship that a man should have with a woman, and likewise a woman should have with a man. And there are those from the ummah of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam who simply will never get married. And so and that's called the uzab in the Arabic language. And so the Rasul, the early years of the Prophet ﷺ, up to the age of 25, the Rasul ﷺ becomes a perfect example in that regard for them. The great Imam Shaykh Abdul Fattah Ghudda, rahimahullah ta'ala, he wrote a very, very important work about the uzab and the bachelors from amongst the ulama of the ummah of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, because they were wrath, I mean they inherit from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but likewise also they inherit from the Anbiya themselves. And so inheritance from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you can look at that in the years before 25. Or inheritance from the Anbiya themselves, you can look at that for an example of the son of Mary alayhi salam, Jesus, inside of his first mission. Or the greatest example of that is Sayyidin wa Hasura, is Yahya ibn Zakaria, John the Baptist, who never gets married, cut, period. Yani alayhi salam. And the tradition of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ulama ummati ka-anbiya bani Israel. Okay, yani they like the children, yani they like the prophets of the children of Israel. And so in that we have an example from the children of Israel who never gets married, cut. That's the meaning. Allah Ta'ala said hasura. The meaning of Allah Ta'ala hasura, the very least meaning is that he doesn't get married. And we could go further, but we won't, because maybe people won't grasp quote unquote the meaning that other of the Imams rahimahullah ta'ala give for hasura. But the least meaning, that everybody's going to embrace, is that saying Yahya ibn Zakaria rahimahullah ta'ala, the first reality that was ever called Yahya. The first person ever called Yahya, John ever, was saying Yahya ibn Zakaria rahimahullah ta'ala, alayhi salam, who never ever gets married. But obviously that quote unquote is an extreme exception. When we look at the prophets themselves, 124,000. We look at the prophets themselves, 224,000. We look at the prophets themselves, in excess of 224,000. It's an exception. And so likewise, Shaykh Abdul Fattah Ghudda, rahimahullah ta'ala, he shows you likewise, it's an exception from the ummah of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Like it's a gross exception from the ulama, awliya, that they will never get married. And you mentioned, quote unquote, the likes of Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, the great Yahya, named Yahya, Abu Zakaria, Yahya, Imam al-Nawawi Sharafuddin rahimahullah ta'ala, who never ever got married, rahimahullah ta'ala, never ever got married. Okay, and so that there, the Rasul has an example of that. But thereafter, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, an-nikah in sunnat al-anbiya. He said, marriage is from what the ways of the Prophet, sunnat al-anbiya. Wal-hukmu ala al-ghalib. The ruling is in accordance to what is normative. Okay? And so the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, up to 25, he demonstrates sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam radical bachelorship. He's radical in his what, in being a bachelor sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What does radical mean? So we understand it. It relates to the inward now. What's the inward? That women la takhtu ala al-bal. Okay, like women don't adhere to the mind of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That the Rasul ain't holding something, ain't containing something. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not distracted inwardly by women sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nor outwardly. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rather, when that age comes, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet al-ba'a falyatazawwaj. The problem, when you get to the point where that age is within you, look at the way the Rasul, fa in the Arabic language, ta'aqib, immediacy, lam, fal, I'm commanding you, yatazawwaj, like the Rasul. I'm commanding you, if you, the age for women, immediately marry. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. But if you're not able, i.e. the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you're not able, why? An issue of an inability financially to take care of a woman, the Prophet ﷺ then says, "Fal yasum." Then I am commanding you to immediately fast. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَإِنَّ لَهُ وِجَاء. The Prophet ﷺ, فَإِنَّ لَهُ وِجَاء. Wija is a castration. The Rasul saying wija is like what you do to a horse, yani, to a stallion, or often in order to sever its desire, to temper it. Yani. And the Rasul ﷺ, the term he uses is equestrian terms, because they relate to the equine and equestrian reality within us, the nafs that resides inside of each and every single human being. You have to temper that. And fasting is what tempers it, the Rasul says. Willa, otherwise, marriage. And so the Rasul at 25 years of age, the Prophet now, he goes into a term we can now use called radical monogamy. And so radical monogamy that the Rasul is only going to be married to one woman, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, one woman. He's only married to one woman inwardly and outwardly. He's not like married to one woman outwardly, but inwardly the mind of the Rasul is strained. Hasha. It's called radical monogamy, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And that, no doubt, is the reality of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But also we should understand that it also does relate to the perfection of Khadija, radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha. And Khadija, perfect, radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha. Perfect. And the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, kabula min al-rijal kathir. He says a great number of men have reached stages of perfection. Hadith in Bukhari. وَمِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَّا أَرْبَعٍ وَمَا كَمُلَتْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَّا أَرْبَعٍ. And there's only been 4 women who've ever reached that state of perfection. And in the age of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, 2 women. Only 2 women in the age of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Khadija radiallahu anha wardaha wa bint Khadija, Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. They're the only 2 women. The Rasul sallallahu clarifies it inside of the hadith in al-Bukhari. And that is why you're going to see radical monogamy for the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with Khadija, and radical monogamy for Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib with Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Okay? And in order to understand the nature of radical monogamy, you have to look at what happens after Khadija, radiallahu anha wardaha. You have to look at what happens after Sayyidina Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, after they return to the Barzakh. Remember the Rasul, as we're going to see in Sayyidina Nas, the Imams rahimahullah ta'ala can take it to an excess of 30 women. The Rasul engages in terms of marriage. Okay, bil mujma' alayh, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, 10 women. Going to marry 10 women, mujma' alayh, by consensus. Everyone agrees upon 10. But he would say the now they're going to enter into other women that there is a disagreement over whether he married them or not, whether he consummated or not, whether he proposed and thereby had the ahd or not. There's a difference of opinion there. Fatima Zahra, Fatima Zahra. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu warda married 30 women after Sayyidina Fatima Zahra. 30 women. But whilst he's with Sayyidina Fatima Zahra radiallahu anha wardaha, it's a radical monogamy. And again, the sifa in Fatima, it's not necessarily Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, because Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, when he approached the Prophet ﷺ to marry upon Sayyidina Fatima, he wants to marry the daughter of Abu Jahl, of Amr ibn Hisham. He asks for permission to marry the daughter of Abu Jahl from the Prophet ﷺ. And so the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Rasul now is not going to deal with Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, direct, personally, in private, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam takes it to the minbar. This is a public announcement now. And the Prophet is going to take that one to the minbar, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the Rasul said, Ali bin Abi Talib has approached me, that he wants to marry the daughter of Abu Jahl. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Lan adhan, I give him no permission. Thumma lan adhan, I'm telling you again, I give him no permission. Thumma lan adhan, I tell you again, 3 times the Rasul, I'm giving him no position. The choice is that he can maintain my daughter, one, or he can divorce my daughter and marry the daughter of Abu Jahl, the daughter of the Messenger of God and the daughter of the enemy of the Messenger of God will not be joined with one man. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said. Now, the tradition, it relates to Fatima Zahra. No, not to Ali bin Abi Talib. Ali bin Abi Talib wants more than one. But this is about Sayyidina Fatima, radiallahu anha, wardaha, sifatul bint, sifatul The attribute of the daughter is the attribute of the mother. Now, these are perfect women, perfect. Okay? And what must be noted? Intaha. The perfection of womanhood, intaha. Finish. It's gone. That they're over in terms of that sifa. And the Rasul himself, sallam, as well as the companions, radiallahu anhum wa ardahum, are going to demonstrate that inside of their lives, radiallahu ta'ala anhum wa ardahum. Okay? And so saying to Khadija, radiallahu anha wa ardaha, in perfection. And the Rasul, sallam, in radical monogamy, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, was saying to Khadija. And again, I'm just using a term here, radical, meaning the Rasul's not married to a woman, and the Rasul, sallam, not thinking of other women. And that ain't with the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. هكذا. And the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sayyidina Habib Umar said, haram. Haram there. Habib Umar said, haram. I get the word of Habib Umar. Okay? And so hashab, that would be an attribute that we could attribute to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Thereafter, after the death of Sayyidina Khadija radiallahu anha wa ardaha, the Prophet ﷺ now goes in what we can now begin to call radical polygyny. Radical polygyny. Okay? The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam is going to now, literally from the get-go, he's going to now marry 2 women. Obviously, the women we'll look at is Sayyidina Sauda bin Zam'a radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha, and Sayyidina Aisha bin Abi Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. Okay? The Rasul. I mean, there's a riwayah that the Prophet ﷺ marries both of them on the same day. Now, the riwayah shows, the radical nature of polygyny that the Rasul ﷺ enters into. Okay, and note, it's almost immediate after the death of Khadija. Since Khadija, as we learned, she dies in the 10th year after prophecy in the month of Ramadan, on a dominant opinion. We're speaking about that Ramadan, the very same Ramadan. The Rasul ﷺ gets married. And it shows you that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam is not going to remain aloof from marriage, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. For somebody who's been married and thereby, and whether they get divorced or whether, quote unquote, it's wafa, the wife dies or whatever, and particularly speak of a man, to remain unmarried, dangerous for them and their religion. Look, the Imam rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala, his wife died and he married the very same day of the death of his wife. Same day, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala. Look, the Imam of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah is speaking about rahimahullah ta'ala, the one who sees Allah 100 times. That Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the one who's buried with 3 hairs of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one on right eye, one on left eye, one on tongue. That Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala. And so the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is going to get married in the same month. It's not at the same day, but the same month. And say the Khadija radiallahu anha wa ardaha dies, he definitely gets married. Does he marry both at the same time? That's a riwayah. Does he marry both of them inside of the same month? That's also a riwayah. Does he marry Sayyidina Sauda in Ramadan and Sayyidina Aisha in Shawwal? That's the strongest opinion. It's a month apart. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that the Rasul sallallahu marries these 2 great women. And again, Allah ta'ala alam, if a Sayyidina Sauda bin Zam'a is a degree of fakhar for Sayyidina Sauda. Okay, that she likewise can be the only woman who can actually claim on the dominant opinion that she was married to the Prophet ﷺ, other than Khadija, that she was married to the Prophet ﷺ and no one else was. I mean, she's the only other woman who can claim that she was in a degree of monogamy with the Prophet ﷺ. Although it doesn't last long. Sayyidah Khadija, mashallah ta'ala, 25 years of the dominant opinion. 25 years. She's with the Rasul ﷺ for because of the beauty, silver, the beauty right there, radiallahu anha wa radaha, and what, quote unquote, it's her movement into the barzakh that brings that 25-year period to an end. It's not like 25 years and then he marries another woman, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But 25 years, if the Khadija, mashallah, tabarakallah, enters into the barzakh, radiallahu anha wa radaha, and thereby the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam begins to marry. And then the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, now you see the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hubbiba ilayya min dunyakum an-nisa. Now women from your dunya may be beloved to me, And as Imam Ibn Sayyid al-Nas, so we don't misunderstand what it means to love women. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ladhatuhunna. It's with ladha, okay? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ladha. I want to translate it like in this context, but ladha. The Rasul enjoys women, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that clear that they're not open for question, not open for doubt, not open for objection, hatta, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's from the perfection of its reality, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as the Imams, rahimahullah ta'ala, they say it's from the perfection of the sunnah. The perfection of the sunnah, that when somebody upon the sunnah, that one is alamat al-kamal. That's from the signs of perfection that somebody is upon the sunnah of the Rasul himself, sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama. Now this is radical polygyny of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it min khususiyatihi. Radical polygyny of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam min khususiyatihi. It's from the elect qualities of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Somebody can share with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in being a bachelor, and somebody can share with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam being in radical monogamy. But nobody can share with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the degree of his radical polygyny. Remember, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he passes to the barzakh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, mujma' alayh upon 9 women. Nobody gets beyond 4 in Shariat al-Mutahhara. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now places the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on a mantle all by himself in his relationship with women, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, shared by none other from the ummah of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And that means, you say, from nubuwah, because you do find that attribute in the prophets who went before. They married far more than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the prophets of old, like to say Sulaiman, etc. Okay, so we look at the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We try to read through them in brief, inshallah ta'ala. The Imam first and foremost begins with those wives who everybody agrees was a wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he goes into elements of dispute, inshallah ta'ala. And we're not going to quote unquote stress and delve into a lot of them, and inshallah ta'ala, again, inshallah. Abdul Malik ibn Muhammad al-Naysapuri rahimahullah ta'ala related his own chain of transmission on the authority of Atiyya al-Awfi, on the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radhiallahu anhu wardahu, who said that the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I did not marry any of my wives, nor did I give any of my daughters sallallahu alaihi wasallam in marriage, except by virtue of revelation that Gabriel brought to me from my Lord, mighty and sublime is he. This commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the arrangement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes it's clearly evident, like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was saying Aisha, that they're clearly evident. And he said Jibreel alayhi salam is going to bring the picture of Aisha to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam. So the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam inquires, who's this woman? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asks her. And he said, I've been to Abi Bakr, that's the daughter of Abu Bakr. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees it, then it comes to pass. And Jibreel alayhi brings the picture of Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha. And likewise also, it's very clear with the likes of whom Sayyidina Zainab bin Jahash. The Prophet ﷺ married Sayyidina Zainab bin Jahash, and the contract is in the heavens. The contract's in the heavens, not upon earth. It's in the contract in the heavens. That's why Sayyidina Zainab bin Jahash radiallahu anha wardaha, You know, the wives can have their own sort of little friendly, you know what I mean, their friendly relationships. The wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and saying Zainab bin Jahash, what she'd say to the other wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, you know, as for you, and your fathers married you to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah is the one who married me to him. Allah, the contract was in the heavens, and that's what she's referring to. Radiallahu anha wa illa. Otherwise, every single wife of the Prophet ﷺ was chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in a way contracted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although that contract ordinarily is mirrored upon earth also, with exception, the notable exception is saying Zainab radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha. Okay, and first of the wives, the greatest of them, yani the Messenger of Allah sallallahu married Khadija, the daughter of Khuwaylid radiallahu ta'ala anha. She was the daughter of Khuwaylid, and she's been mentioned earlier. As we know, Saint Khadija, and mashallah, tabarakallah. And that is the greatest of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon the dominant opinion. There is an opinion of Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha is greater. And the best way to join between quote unquote, because the Imams who say Aisha is greater, they're using dalil, okay? But the dalil has to be contextualized, okay? And the way you contextualize it, saying Khadija radiallahu anha wardaha, she's the greatest wife, period. Whereas Aisha, she's the greatest wife from amongst those who the Rasul was in radical polygyny with. You get the point? She's the greatest there. And saying Khadija radiallahu ta'ala, saying Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha, as when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is asked, "Man ahabba an-nas ilayk?" And who's the most beloved of all people to you? And the Rasul says, Aisha. Okay, so when is the Rasul asked? He's asked in Medina. It's a question inside of Medina to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Rasul answers in the context of Medina. As we know in Medina, the Rasul in a state of radical polygyny, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Hakada nubuwa, yani. The narrative of two cities of Mecca and of Medina. And in Mecca, you speak about the Rasul ﷺ being in a monogamous relationship. That day in Mecca. Even though at the end of Mecca, the Rasul ﷺ is married to Sauda and married to Sayyidina Aisha. But in Mecca, there's no consummation with Aisha. None. And so in terms of nikah, in the truest sense of the word, nikah in the Arabic language, dam. What does nikah mean in the Arabic language? It literally means the sexual union. And the contract of marriage is over the sexual union. That's the contract of marriage. And in Mecca to Mukarramah, the contract of marriage, the Rasul, it's monogamous. They're Mecca. But in Medina to Munawwara, now it becomes polygynous for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's always important when you're looking at themes of seerah, this sort of narrative of two quote unquote of two cities, these narratives of opposites, through opposites, things become clear. And so Khadija radiallahu anha wardaha, mashallah tabarakallah, married to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam inside of Mecca. But saying Khadija radiallahu anha wardaha also married to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam with the divide. Meaning divide of prophecy. I mean, she's married to the Rasul قبل النبوة وبعد النبوة. يعني قبل البعثة وبعد البعثة. 15 years on the dominant opinion prior to prophecy, 10 years to the point of her death. Thereafter, radiallahu ta'ala, يعني عنها ورداها. That's saying to Khadija radiallahu anha wardaha. She's the daughter of Khuwaylid ibn Asad. And she's been mentioned earlier, radiallahu anha wardaha, the greatest of all the wives. And again, this is a textual analysis, philology here, how you sort of jama' bayn ta'arud, how you try to join between things, often seem reconcilable about who's the greatest wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's similar to like who's the first Muslim. The traditions say Khadija, traditions say Abu Bakr, traditions say Ali, traditions say Zayd bin Haritha, isn't it? Traditions. Okay, then, yani. And then even when the Imams, rahimahullah ta'ala, say what it means, how we join between the traditions, is that saying Khadija was the first woman. Sayyidina Abu Bakr was the first man, adult. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib was the first child. And Sayyidina Zayd was the first freed slave. Sayyidina Bilal, the first slave. They want the first, quote unquote, in their social status. They want, rahimahullah ta'ala. We'll say that there still has to be a first. Yani. It's not like they all became Muslim at the same time. We know that through Dalil. It wasn't like all at the same time. Men al-awwal, or rather al-ula, is Khadija. Radiallahu anha wardaha. woman towered, يعني, that woman towered, يعني. Saint Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha bintu Khuwaylid. And our fakhr, our fakhr, after you say, what's the fakhr? Like, what did we all get out of it? She's our mother, yani. I got a mother. And so long as we're from the mu'mineen, yani, so long as we're from the faithful, yani, that's the mother of the faithful, Saint Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, yani, wa ardaha. Okay? The second of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he married Saint Sauda radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha. Okay? Sauda. And the Prophet ﷺ, he marries Khadija, and the Rasul is like 25 years of age when he marries Khadija. That is the strongest opinion. And there's other opinion, was the Rasul 21 years of age? Was he 28 years of age? Dominant, the Prophet ﷺ is 25 years of age. And the dominant is Khadija is 40 years of age. And she's 40. Although there are opinions, Khadija was 45 or Khadija was 35. There are different opinions within Khadija likewise. Dominant that she was 40 years of age when she married the Prophet ﷺ. And then I think it's also noticeable that the Prophet ﷺ, when Saint Khadija dies, Khadija is 65 years of age. Again, not the strongest opinion. She was 65 when she passed away. And then the Prophet married Saint Sauda bin Zum'a, radiallahu anha warda. And Saint Sauda bin Zum'a, strongest opinion, was 66 years of age. Like Saint Sauda radiallahu anha warda. Like Saint Sauda, just like Khadija radiallahu anha wardaha, they're one generation closer to Qusay than the Prophet ﷺ. One generation closer to Qusay. I say that Khadija as well as saying as Sauda are of the generation of the father of the Prophet ﷺ. The father of the Rasul, both of them. Okay? Radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha. Okay? And so he marries Sauda. And he marries Sauda, and I think it's also important as well, so we understand the age, that it's saying it's a Khawla bint Hakim, radiallahu anha wa ardaha. It's Khawla bint Hakim, who's the wife of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Mad'un, radiallahu anhu wa ardaha. And as we'll see, it is said that Rasul later marries her, Khawla bint Hakim. But Khawla bint Hakim at this point is the wife of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Mad'un, Imam Banu Jumh, rahimahullah ta'ala. She's the one who suggests to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that, marry, and you got to get married immediately. She's the one who brings it to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I'm trying to stress it's a woman. And then the second is then she's the one who suggests who he should marry. Because the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, okay, you suggest I should get married. Men, who then? Go further with the suggestion. So she says to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Sauda. She mentioned Sauda. Sauda. And I think the beauty of it, Sauda, her best friend, did it. So she's looking out for her best friend, Sauda. They migrated to Abyssinia together, returned back from Abyssinia together. So she suggests Sauda to the Prophet ﷺ, but then she also suggested Rasul Aisha. He should marry Aisha. And so the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, okay, you suggest that I get married, and you suggest who I get married, then he go and sort it, innit? Go and sort it. Look, the Rasul sends her to go and sort it. And so saying, so that, khalas sorted easy. That's her best friend, She sorts that khalas, mashallah ta'ala. I remember the husband of, Sauda at this point, a widow. Okay, Sauda, her husband had died, on the return back from Abyssinia. They have to face migrants. And so she's a widow at this point in time. So the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam marries a widow, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay? And as we're going to see, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in marriage, he doesn't give a man an excuse. In a woman, he doesn't give a man an excuse not to marry, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Like he's not going to give you an excuse of age. He's not going to give you an excuse of size. He's not going to give you an excuse of race. He's not going to give you. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He removes every excuse that man, quote unquote, in their imperfection, and I mean gross imperfection, can often have when it comes to choosing a woman for marriage. Claiming to be ala qadami, we're on the footsteps of the Prophet, following the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said Khawla bint Hakim will thereby arrange Sauda, that clear. But I think of the amazing things there, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is like 50 years of age, and he's marrying now a woman of 66 years of age. I remember we say the Rasul 50 years of age, like 50-50, but the Rasul young, you get the point, and he's young, but he's marrying a woman of 66, and then the Rasul is going to marry Aisha, 6. Look at that, like two opposite ends of the spectrum there in terms of age. Like he marries 6 and he marries 66. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha, when Sayyidina Khawla goes to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Sayyidina Aisha was engaged to what? To Jubayr ibn Mut'im ibn Adi. She was engaged to Jubayr ibn Mut'im. And so Abu Bakr saying like, Kaif? And Zubayr, and she's engaged to like him, to Jubayr ibn Mut'im ibn Adi. And Khawla, like the beautiful woman she is, she says, that's your problem, innit? Don't tell her my problem. That's not my problem. That's your problem, yani. So she leaves, yani. You better sort that out. Initially, she goes to the mother of Aisha, and the mother of Aisha was Rumman, yani. And Rumman said, look, don't come and speak to me. You better go and speak to the father there. And so when she goes to Abu Bakr says, she's engaged to Jubayr bin Mut'im. Khawla said, that ain't my business. Khawla meshet, yani. Khawla leaves, yani. Leaves to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So Abu Bakr's got to go to Mut'im ibn Adi. And Mutalabi, he's got to go to Mut'im ibn Adi and thereby, quote unquote, negotiate the fasq there. Okay, that the engagement there is going to be called off, which was, in a sense, mutually agreed. Why? Because Mut'im ibn Adi, from quote unquote the leaders of Nadwa there, and this is the age of enmity against the Prophet ﷺ. And although he's not an enemy, still, how is it going to be if my son marries the daughter of the sort of the great, supporter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so he's sort of happy to back out of that marriage. And obviously Abu Bakr is radiallahu anhu warda, and thereby the rest becomes history. And what a history, mashallah ta'ala. Allah ta'ala thereby wrote, with the marriage of Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha, as-Siddiqa bint as-Siddiq, the truthful one, the son of the truthful one. So this is Sayyidina Sauda radiallahu anha wardaha, who's the first of the wives that the Prophet ﷺ marries after Sayyidina Khadija. He then married Sauda, the daughter of Zum'a ibn Qais, ibn Abd Shams, ibn Abd Wud, ibn Nasir, ibn Malik, ibn Hisl, ibn Amir, ibn Lu'ay. Okay? And remember, Sayyidina Sauda, and it's important when you look at lineage, that she's Qurayshiyah, she's from Quraysh. Okay? She's Qurayshiyah. And that there, if you look at her lineage, Amir ibn Lu'ay. Amir ibn Lu'ay, her clan. She's from the clan of Amir ibn Lu'ay. And Amir ibn Lu'ay is not one of the 9 inner clans of Quraysh. It's of the other 3, what are called the outer clans. Quraysh are the inner clans, the ones of the inner sanctuary, and they're the ones who wield power inside of Mecca. And then there are those who are from the out, beyond the sanctuary, from Quraysh. Okay, she's from Amir ibn Lu'ay radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha. And this becomes important when you look at lineage. Okay, who does the Prophet ﷺ marry, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, in terms of his lineage, sallallahu alayhi wa sahbihi wa sallam. She grew old whilst married to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And we grew old, remember the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Sauda is going to be in excess of 80 years of age when she passes away. When the Rasul passes away, she's 79, 80 years of age, 80 odd years of age. So she grew old whilst married to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and due to her age, the Imams have different things, but the Prophet ﷺ wanted to divorce her. And it can be understood because there is a riwayah that she had that fear, that the Rasul ﷺ was going to divorce her. She had that. But then also at the same time, well, what was the truth of the matter? Was it true that the Prophet ﷺ wanted to divorce her? And of the Imams, rahimahullah ta'ala, are upon that the Rasul ﷺ wanted to actually divorce Sayyidina Sauda radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha. And so she gifted her day to Aisha. She gifted her day to Aisha, radiallahu anha wardaha, saying, I have no need of men. She says, I have no need of men. However, my only desire is that I'm resurrected as one of your wives. I want to be with you in Jannah forever. And so the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, show how the Rasul sallallahu enters happiness upon the heart of Sayyidina Sauda radiallahu anha wardaha, and the Rasul maintains into Sauda radiallahu anha wardaha. And that beautiful, because Sauda now sets a precedent, because the Prophet does not pass away, say that every wife has followed Sauda and given their day to Aisha. You hear that? And every act of all those great women radiallahu anha wardaha goes back to Sauda, because she set the precedent in giving her day to Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha. So they're great, mashallah ta'ala. Our mother. The Prophet married Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha, who's the daughter of Abu Bakr, Abdullah ibn Uthman, ibn Amir, ibn Amr, ibn Ka'ab, ibn Sa'ad, ibn Tayyib, ibn Murrah. And he married her in Mecca, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, 2 years before the migration. And it was sounded 3 years before the migration. As we said, married her in the 10th year in the month of Shawwal. month of Shawwal, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he marries her, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or as is mentioned, 3 years. That's what you must underline. When she was 6 or 7 years of age, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and that's what the Imams are upon. Of these 6 being the most dominant, she was 6 years of age. And again, that normal. Make sure we understand that normal, and that it's not just normal for who the Prophet marries, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but he marries his daughters off at similar ages, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The only daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam who's not married off before the age of 10 is Sayyidina Fatima Zahra, alayhi salam. She's the only one. Otherwise, Sayyidina Ruqayya, Sayyidina Zainab, Sayyidina Kulthum, all are married off before the age of 10. Than the stronger opinion. And so the Prophet ﷺ marries at the age of 6 ﷺ, and again, just so before the questions come, that normal, and not only normal, there's a perfection in that. Why is there a perfection in it? Because Rasulullah ﷺ did it. Okay, the Prophet himself did it. And it's not just that he did it himself, but he did it to his daughters. He sanctioned it amongst others, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then thereby in the age, khairun nas qarni, the best generation is my generation, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the Quraysh are leaders of humanity, tradition of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the believers for the believers and the non-believers for the non-believers. Disbelievers and disbelievers. That it's also normal amongst Quraysh, the kuffar of Quraysh, to marry at such an age. And again, we're not just here looking at this is Mecca, this is Quraysh or what have you, but the world ijma', the world ijma', that it's normal for somebody to get married at that age, in the entire world, sure. Let's not use quote unquote recent understandings of gender relations as a standard by virtue of which we measure the entire history of humanity, especially this age. Like what standard? What standards does the modern world have that it can project it upon the history of the narrative of man, and thereby quote unquote as if they have the Furqan, يفرق بين الحق والباطل. You can differentiate between what is true and what is false, what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. That, as a believer, we absolutely refuse that. We absolutely refuse that. And so he married Aisha radiallahu anha when she was 6 or 7 years of age. But note, there's not a consummation. It's an aqad. It's the marriage contract without consummation. And the marriage not consummated inside of Mecca. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Aisha remains in the house of her father Abu Bakr and her mother Ruman. And so thereby the Rasul consummated the marriage in Medina when she was 9 years of age, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he died married to her when she was 18 years of age. Okay, and in that, Allahu A'lam, when she was 9, although virtually everybody upon 9 years of age. But 9 years of age, if we take, and Ibn Sayyid al-Nas consistent, if he's saying that Sayyidina Aisha was married to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam 2 years before the Hijrah. It's not a dominant opinion, it's 3 years before the Hijrah. So it's 3 years before the Hijrah. I'm just saying just for precision of numbers here, a precision of age, that the dominant opinion, Shawwal, she's married to the Prophet ﷺ 3 years before the Hijrah. Ibn Sayyid al-Nas rahimahullah ta'ala, he wants that the Sayyidina Aisha anha wardaha, now the marriage is consummated in Medina in the first year. And everyone once again is going to say Shawwal. So it's going to place Aisha at 10 years of age, or thereabouts, roughly. You could take a few days or two. But the same month he marries her is the same month he consummates the marriage. Okay? As I put Sayyidina Aisha at 10 years of age. And what's even stronger than what Ibn Sayyid al-Nas wants is that the consummation of the marriage of the Prophet to Sayyidina Aisha is ba'da Badr. It's after Badr. So it's not the first year, rather it's the second year of Shawwal. So that puts Aisha now at 11 years of age. Radiallahu anha wardaha. Okay? And again, this normal in terms of quote unquote seerah and what have you, as you see, the Prophet said in Sahih al-Bukhari, نحن أمة أمية لا نكتب ولا نحسب, and we're an oral nation, like we don't use letters, we don't use numbers, we're not a people of numbers. So often, and when you start looking at the numbers being mentioned, it doesn't necessarily measure up to the way, quote unquote, as we live in the age of quantity and time. As some people say, when everything has to be quantified, you got the one, quote unquote. Tell you, he consummated a marriage in Medina when she was 9 years of age, and he died married to her when she was 18 years of age, radiyallahu ta'ala anha, wa ardaha. Okay, saying Aisha anha wa ardaha. She died in the 58th year after the migration, although other than that has been mentioned, and she was the only virgin that the Prophet ever married. And it's the only woman that the Prophet married who had never been married prior. and never consummated a marriage prior. Amongst those who it's absolutely muttafiq alayh, by consensus that he did marry. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so that day the khususiyya for saying Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha, but also it opens up a door for us that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam marries a woman who's never been married before. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Aisha, one. But then the Rasul overwhelmingly marries women who have been married before. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And they're not only who have been married before, but then the Rasul can also marry women who have been married before and have been married more than once. Like the example of the great Khadija, who's married twice before marrying the Prophet ﷺ, the Rasul, the third husband. And then likewise also the Rasul ﷺ, not only those who have not been married before, who have been married before, but those who have been married before and have children. So if you start looking at, you can marry a woman who's never been married, you could marry a woman who has been married with no children, or you can marry a woman who has been married with children. There's not a fourth option there. So the Rasul is showing you, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, mashallah, tabarakallah, isn't it? And what excuse do you have now? It's like the statement of the Rasul, as we see as we go through the wives of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Rasul intended the a'mar ummati ma bayna 60 wa 70. At the age of my nation, between 60 and 70 years of age. So let's now measure decades. First decade, beneath 10, second decade, beneath 20, third decade, between 30, and so on. He marries a woman in every decade. In every decade. And those beneath 10, those beneath 20, those beneath 30, those beneath 40, beneath 50, beneath 60, beneath 70. What excuse do you have? Age is but a number. That's what the Rasul says, age is but a number. The Prophet ﷺ is telling you there. And again, these show what's important, especially as the Rasul ﷺ, خيركم خيركم لأهلي وأنا خيركم لأهلي. The best of you can be determined in your relationship with women. And I'm the best of you in my relationship with women. And so now we can determine khairiyya in that regard. Because there's got to be a criteria for khairiyya. And shuf, the Rasul ﷺ has given us it there. And often you're going to see the minds of quote unquote in this age of men are amiss, and as it relates to quote unquote relationships with women. We ask Allah Ta'ala for tawfiq, we ask Allah Ta'ala for tawfiq, And it's as if that's microcosmic, You get that right, you get everything right. It's as if, that you get that element right, everything else begins to fall into place, Like some of the Imams, rahimahullah ta'ala, in the narrative of man as a physical reality, that they're the first relationship. That the first relationship in man as a physical composite, saying Adam and Eve, it's the union between man and wife. You look at as a physical composite, the first relationship is not like parenthood. It's not a relationship with a parent, I remember Allah Ta'ala could have made it, isn't it? Allah Ta'ala could have made the relationship, that's in Adam now, and then saying Adam, Allah Ta'ala creates from saying Adam without wife, children. And as we know that saying Adam alayhi salam and saying and Hawa, they're going to have twins, isn't it? The children are born in twins, and that's how now you got the point. It depends what bottom you're in. Those twins, the male from this womb will marry the female from the next womb, and the female from this womb will marry the male from the next womb. That's how it begins, isn't it? But the point I want to stress is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have made it that it's saying Adam alayhi salam, and then children, and then the marriage. Sure. So the first relationship now would have been a parental relationship. But the first relationship and so in the world of man as a physical composite, it's man and wife, okay? It's determining. Okay, and so she died in the 58th year after the migration, although other than that, as we mentioned, radiallahu anha wa ardaha, she was given the kunya Abdillah. The biography of Aisha is extensive. So one of the greatest biographies I've ever going to read, the biography of Aisha. For amongst the Sahaba, there's very few of a biography like Aisha. MashaAllah ta'ala. She lived during the age of the Rasul, she lived beyond the age of the Rasul, she lived throughout the ages of the Khulafa, radiallahu anhu ardaha, MashaAllah ta'ala. Aisha, great. And the sifat of Aisha are unparalleled, And one could claim her sifat are unparalleled. There's not a single tributary in character say that she has imamat in that. She has imamat in it, a woman profound, there's not virtues that you ordinarily only find in men. See that Aisha has those virtues. She has the virtues that you'd say that we'd consider that more to be a manly virtue. Aisha, شوف رضي الله عنها وارضاها. In the biography of Aisha, كانت رجلا في رأيها. In the way she processed thought, she was a man. Look, in a biography, it says كانت رجلا. Saying Aisha رضي الله عنها وارضاها. Aisha, profound, yani, profound, like really, really profound. You cannot read and study Aisha, say that, like she'll take your breath away, yani. In terms of sifat, radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha, like truly great. She was given the kunya Abdillah, the mother of Abdillah. And that is a kunya of tarbiyah. Like, and Allah, because we can be the mother of our child, but can you be the mother of other people's children? Abdullah is Abdullah bin Zubayr. Yani. That's Abdullah. Like she's the mother of her nephew. And that is a kind of testimony to the tarbiyah, murabbiyah. Radiallahu anhu. And Abdullah ibn Zubayr, khilafat, yani. He achieves khilafat. Radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha. Okay? Tayyib. Biography is extensive. We just read through the wives. Then the Prophet married Sayyidah Hafsa, the daughter of Umar ibn Khattab ibn Nufayl ibn Abdul Uzr ibn Riyah ibn Abdullah ibn Qarat ibn Razah ibn Adi ibn Ka'ab radiallahu anha wa ardaha. Obviously Qurayshiyah, just like Aisha, Qurayshiyah, just like Sayyidina Sauda, Qurayshiyah, just like Sayyidina Khadija, Qurayshiyah. So you've seen all the initial wives of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Qurayshiyah. They're from Quraysh. They're Qurayshi women that the Prophet ﷺ initially marries exclusively. And once again, this is the greatest of all women. Sayyidah Hafsa radiallahu anha wardaha, who's the daughter of Umar ibn Khattab. And in that you see a beauty, and there's a beauty there. What's the beauty? Is the Rasul, like saying Abu Bakr and Umar hakada there. And I say Abu Bakr pull ahead with Aisha, isn't it? The Rasul ﷺ, Hafsa. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's the ibrah of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. After the death of her husband, again she was widowed, radiallahu anha. Her husband died at Badr. His name is Khunais. Khunais. Her initial husband, from Banu Sahm, Ibn Hudayfa al-Sahmi. There. And so now Sayyidina Hafsa radiallahu anha wardaha, Sayyidina Umar wants to marry of Sayyidina Hafsa. And Sayyidina Umar also wants to choose the best of people. And so he goes to Abu Bakr. Look at this choice. Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr makes his excuses. Sure, Abu Bakr makes his excuses. No, makes his excuses. And so now he's going to approach Sayyidina Uthman. Uthman likewise makes his excuses. Both of them make his excuses. So Umar ibn Khattab is showing you like reality. I'm a daughter there. I'm a daughter. So Umar, wajada fi nafsihi shay. He finds like in his heart, he's got something like what's going on with Umar and with Abu Bakr al-Rahman here. What's the idea of my daughter there? So he finds in his heart something, that they're not embracing the proposition to marry his daughter. Then who comes? The Rasul. And then when Umar goes back to Abu Bakr says, because I heard the Rasul mention her. The reason that I just made my excuses there, because the Rasul had mentioned Sayyidina Hafsa, I know he had intent. Sure, he had intent there. And so the Rasul approaches, and the Rasul marries Sayyidina Hafsa, the greatest of them, the wives of the Rasul, supreme in knowledge, just like Aisha, supreme in knowledge, best friend of Aisha. And that there are very beautiful relationships between like two women go to share the same husband, co-wives. And the term, often the term in the Arabic language, the term, you ask them, what's the Arabic word for a co-wife? The word darra, the word. And darra from the word dar, harm. Harm, the term, harm. Some say darra. They say the darra is the opposite of the jara. The jar is the one who protects you. The dar is the one who harms you. Darra. But now you see Sayyidina Hafsa and Sayyidina Aisha, mashallah. That is such a beautiful relationship, And the sifat are very, very they're like similar type of sifat, as Sayyidina Aisha and Sayyidina Hafsa has. Like very, very knowledgeable. They say religion is when the two women agree. And then when those two women in knowledge, when those two women disagree, they say qa'ida al-muthbita ala manfiya. We take the one who affirms over the one who negates. There's a qaida for Sayyidina Aisha and Sayyidina Hafsa. Like the one who affirms that the Rasul did this over the one who negates it. Like you look at the tradition, for instance, in Sha'ban, did the Rasul fast the entire Sha'ban? Hafsa said, yeah. Aisha said no. Muthbita ala manfiya. You take the one who affirms over the one who negates. Take Hafsa. Radiallahu anha wardah. The Rasul fasting the 9 as an example and getting fasted. The 9 of what, of Dhul Hijjah. Did he? He fast all of the Dhul Hijjah in the early days? Hafsa says yes. Aisha says no. Muthbita ala manfiya. Take the one who affirms over the one who negates. Take Hafsa again. Radiallahu anha wardah. Hafsa, mashallah. That's the first keeper of the Quran. And the Quran compiled, first Quran compiled in the age of Abu Bakr, moves into the hands of Hafsa. Radiallahu anha wardah. Even when it was quote unquote brought together once again in the age of Uthman, put it in the hands of Hafsa. She's the first keeper, radiallahu anha wardah. Sayyidina Hafsa, radiallahu anha wardah. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they say that Hafsa, radiallahu anha wardah, she was like 21 years of age, early 20s, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam married. Say the Hafsa radiallahu anha wardah, 21. I mean, she'd already been married and widowed. 21 years of age, radiallahu anha wardah. Say the Hafsa, the daughter of Umar. It was related the Prophet later divorced her. So Gabriel, upon whom be peace, descended and said, verily God blessed and exalted is he, commands you to take back Hafsa, as she fasts and prays regularly. In another narration, he said, out of mercy for Umar, radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, may God be pleased with both of them. And that again, we show that's saying Hafsa. It shows you the importance, like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that like a man is not asked about what occurs inside of his own house. It ain't nobody's business what goes on inside of the privacy of a man's home. I the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, and thereby what's important, especially with the wife, is that the wife maintains the secrets of the husband. Maintains that very, very important. And so now the issue is that saying Hafsa radiallahu anha wardaha, that she comes into knowledge of something in relation to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Bainaki wa baini." It's between you and I. You get it? It's very strict, and it's between you and I. Okay. Here, really, Allah and the Faqih trying to understand the incident. You get into Allah. I'd say you get now more into the psychology of women, the psychology of women, because what you must understand, the Rasul sallallahu he knows what's going to occur. The Rasul knows what's going to occur, but how can the Rasul allows destiny to play itself out? So the Rasul is a secret between the Rasul and Sayyidina Hafsa radiallahu anha wardaha. There's a boat, and it's a very, very big boat. Hafsa and Aisha like that. They're like that, what Hafsa knows, Aisha knows. What Aisha knows, Hafsa knows. So Hafsa, and I'm saying in innocence, Hafsa's going to tell Aisha, that is natural, shuf. Because that day, one of the greatest jihad, men, which men struggle to get, like women are not like men. Men from a perspective, like very sort of isolated, independent, you get the point, cut a lonely figure. A man can maintain. Sure. Women know. They think out aloud with their best friend, innit? And so saying that Hafsa gonna tell Aisha, I don't like that. We can figure that out. Don't tell me the Rasul didn't know that. He didn't have to figure it out, But hakada. So we see Shara. So now, mashallah, tabarakallah, he's told Aisha, and that's it, silent. Enough. So now the Rasul sallallahu tells Hafsa, why have you told Aisha? Hafsa like, who told you that? And the beauty of what do you mean, who told him? He's Rasulullah, Who told you? Who told you? Who told you? So the Rasul said that you broke the secret there. Telling Aisha. So they say that's the issue now. So upon that issue, the Rasul, look how serious it is with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Rasul now wants to divorce her. Ulama differ. Did the Rasul divorce her and then Gabriel descend? Raji'ha, take her back. Or did the Rasul intend to divorce her and Gabriel descended and prevented him from actually pronouncing divorce upon Hafsa? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The upshot, Hafsa remains married to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the upshot, but it's a very important incident in terms of tarbiyah, in terms of gender relations here. Now here, Jibreel alayhi salam, verily God bless and exalted is he, commands you to take back Hafsa. Okay, that's if he divorced her. The other opinion, he doesn't divorce, but he has the intent to. He has the intent to, and Gabriel prevents that. Alayhi salam, as she fasts and prays regularly. Sawama, qawwama. I said, that's all the wives, the abidat, yeah, the abidat. So that's the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, al-marra li-arba'. Like a woman married for 4 things. لِجَمَالِهَا وَلِنَسَبِهَا وَلِمَالِهَا وَلِدِينِهَا فَاظْهَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ فَاظْهَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ تَرِّبَتْ يَدَكَ. He said a woman is married for 4 things. You marry her for her beauty, you marry her for their lineage, family, you marry her for their wealth, or you marry her for their religion. فَاظْهَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ. Take hold of the war with religion, تَرِّبَتْ يَدَكَ, or your hands will be soiled. The Prophet ﷺ, and tradition has meanings, yani. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Hafsa, mashallah ta'ala. The Messenger of God ﷺ married Habiba, radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha, who's Ramla, the daughter of Abu Sufyan, and Sakhar ibn al-Harb, ibn Umayyah, ibn Abd Shams, ibn Abd Naf, while she was in Abyssinia. Lineage, she's the closest of all the wives to the Prophet in lineage. I mean lineage in terms of father's lineage. In terms of father's lineage. She's from the same clan as the Rasul as you see there, Abd Manaf. That's in terms of father's line. In terms of mother's line, it's Zainab bin Jahash. Zainab bin Jahash is a direct cousin of the Prophet. Her mother and the Prophet's father are brother and sister. Yani. So that's looking at mother's line. But if you look at father's line, then whom is saying it to whom? Saying to Habiba, radiallahu anha wardaha, who's the closest yani, to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in terms of line. And she marries the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, she's 42 years of age. Yani. She's after Sauda, she's the eldest woman that the Prophet married. Said to Habiba radiallahu anha wardaha. And she was married to Ubaydullah ibn Jahash. Ubaydullah ibn Jahash is the brother of Zainab bin Jahash. Ubaydullah ibn Jahash. Likewise a cousin of the Prophet ﷺ. And her religion owed, I mean, she had to face migrants to Abyssinia, and even before migrating to Abyssinia, she's from the Hunafa. She's a Hanif, on the way of the Hanif, just like Ubaydullah bin Jahash. So to the point that I said Ubaydullah bin Jahash, he becomes a Christian. Then the Rasul manifests and mashallah ta'ala embraces the Rasul ﷺ, both he and Sayyidina Habiba radiallahu anha wardaha. Then difficulty inside the Mecca al-Mukarramah, they migrate to Abyssinia upon the commandment of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No problem. What's the problem there? That he was a former Christian and now he's in a Christian society. Former Christian in a Christian society. Society bears down upon him. And so what he does now, yatanassar. He apostates from the religion of Islam and embraces Christianity once again. Then whatever his state, and otherwise one could maybe assume like a type of guilt, inward, outward contradiction, whatever his state, but it's said now he becomes an alcoholic. Yani. He becomes an alcoholic. He drinks and drinks and drinks till what? Eventually he dies in kufr. Ubaydullah bin Jahash. That often is going to be stated to show you the greatness of Habiba. Because when he becomes Christian, she doesn't follow him. She doesn't follow him. And she remains, mashallah, on the way of the Rasul, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sallam. And obviously, the marriage, quote unquote, annulled now, once he leaves the religion of Islam. And here she is, mashallah ta'ala, a woman from a perspective, obviously she's with the early community within Abyssinia, but it's a woman without husband. Husband left the religion and dies in that state. She's a woman from a perspective, where's her father? Her father, the leader of Kufr, Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan, her father, the leader of Kufr there. Sure. And meaning follow your husband or maybe return back to your father or what have you. No, she's thabita in a foreign land, thabita upon the deen of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Al-jaza' al-ihsan ila al-ihsan. It's a reward for good other than good. So the Prophet says that marriage, subhanallah. And that's a special marriage, because the Prophet sallallahu in Medina, she's in Aksum in Abyssinia. Sure. And the marriage is going to be conducted by the Najashi himself, the Najashi. That's why she was married to the Rasul while she was in Abyssinia. Radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha Habiba and Ramla bint Abi Sufyan. The Negus gave her a dowry of 400 dinars. Not a lot of money. Remember, the wives get 400 dirham, silver. And she gets like a dowry of 400 dinars, gold. She gets from the Negus, the Najashi, the emperor of Abyssinia, on behalf of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Uthman ibn Affan represented here during the marriage ceremony that day, weak, extremely weak. Why? Because she marries the Rasul in the Medini period. And Uthman ibn Affan is in Medina with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Uthman ibn Affan rahimahullah ta'ala. So although it has been said that it was Khalid ibn Sa'id ibn al-Asi, that they sound. Okay, that's who she's represented by, Khalid ibn Sa'id ibn al-Asi, radiallahu ta'ala anhum. She died in the 44th year after the migration. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with her, radiallahu anha. Likewise, the Rasul married Sayyidina Salama, radiallahu ta'ala anha, wa Hind, the daughter of Abu Umayyah ibn al-Mughira ibn Abdullah ibn Umar ibn Makhzum. Likewise, she'd been married prior. She'd been married prior to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with children. She'd been married with children. And not only married with children, she was married to the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the brother in milk. Okay, and it was Abu Salama ibn Abdul Asad al-Makhzumi. Okay, her initial husband, who, mashallah, tabarakallah, the great companions of the Rasul, very close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a cousin. And his mother and the Prophet's father, a brother and sister. And likewise, one of the great imams of war, Badr, Uhud. About injuries he sustained inside the Badr and Uhud, the Rasul sends him on an expedition which opens up an old wound. He said the wound was inside of his shoulder. He'd been shot with an arrow inside of his shoulder. And then a wound which he'd healed on an expedition comes back and he succumbs to it. Radiallahu anhu, and Imam, Abu Salama, Imam, Subhanallah. Subhanallah. That day, mashallah ta'ala. And so thereby, Salama radiallahu anha, wardah, Salama, she's proposed. She's proposed to by Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq proposes to Salama. Abu Bakr, like Abu Bakr, and he proposes to you. She's like, no. She's like, no. And the Rasul came to her and give it the dua, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and tarji' inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Verily to Allah we belong, verily unto Allah ta'ala we return. Allahumma ajirni fi masibati hadi. Oh Allah, ajirni, which is protect me, ajirni, reward me. That's two meanings. In this tribulation I now find myself in. Wa khlifni ma huwa khayran minhu. And likewise, replace it with that which is better for me than it. The Rasul teaches us the dua. So here understanding, khalas, get a new husband, so I'm better than Abu Salama. And she's like, better than Abu Salama? Better than Abu Salama, like shuf. She couldn't get it better than Abu Salama. I mean, mashallah ta'ala. Like, love for Abu Salama, mashallah ta'ala. No, she wanted a contract with Abu Salama. Abu Salama's dying on his deathbed, was a contract with Abu Salama that shuf, that never gonna marry again. Shuf, we'll be together eternally. Abu Salama says, listen to me here. Marry again. Marry. Abu Salama, marry after me. Abu Salama. So Sahaba, mashallah ta'ala. And so there Abu Bakr proposes to them. Better than Abu Salama. They can have better than Abu Salama. She doesn't get it. No. There's no to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So here, Abu Bakr will come. Then Umar ibn Khattab come. Umar ibn Khattab proposes to her. She's like, no. Sure. As he goes better, Abu Salama. She's doing the dua, but she's saying like, even when she said to the Rasul, she says, better than Abu Salama. The Rasul said, just do the dua, just do the dua. Just do it. Khalas, keep doing the dua. Say Abu Salama. And so thereby Umar, she refuses Umar. Then the Rasul side approaches. The beauty. Now the Rasul side approaches. And Salama's like, nah. Look, she said, no. Like, but now different. Because not an issue of Abu Salama, it's an issue of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ya Rasulullah. She wants to give excuses. 3 excuses to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Mate, what's the excuses? So she says to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm getting on in age. I'm a bit old. She said, old. The Rasul says, no, don't worry, you're good. She was 27. Just looking, she was 27, and she said the Rasul old, but she's not making an excuse. She's 27 is old. They've been married since when? You get the point. I got her. So no. I mean, Rasul married 66, 27. So, what else? She says to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that sibya, that sibya. Like I've got children, I've got like children. Love children, I'm good with children. So I'm good with children. But again, this is about the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's about the Rasul. I don't think she's making an excuse that she doesn't want to, because then the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, awla bi mu'minin anfusihim. She doesn't want anything to harm the Rasul or to anything that the Rasul dislikes. She doesn't want to be the cause of it. Now, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the daughters of Salama, her name is Zainab. And Zainab used to cry a lot, you know what I mean? Like used to cry. Are you a crying one? Zainab, is your little Zainab a crier? Yeah, Zainab, Allah, is she a crier? She's not, but she is. Is hip the crier, is it? So Zainab used to cry a lot. And Salama is the sister of Ammar ibn Yasir in milk. You have the same wetness. Saying that Salama and Ammar ibn Yasir, and they used to be for Banu Makhzoom there. So they have the same sort of wetness, yani. So Ammar, so they were like brother and sister, yani. And so Ammar ibn Yasir would come to Salama and said, look, you see that Shaqiyya there? That's what he said. See that, he used to call it that Shaqiyya. Like Shaqiyya, like that wretched one. Little Zainab's only kid, yani. You see that Shaqiyya there? You better watch it in relation to the Rasul. I mean, don't allow that baby to be upsetting the Prophet. And not that she was. Just look how protective they are over the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how sensitive they are to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Imams can go into that as well. Imams can go. That's why we mentioned there, not the opinion. No, you say it's opinion that people should embrace, but it's still the opinion of a jasus there, about a man not marrying a woman who's already been married for reasons. But one of them, he says about a woman who has children, that her being busy with the children could distract her from her rights of wifery. And you get the point of being a wife to her husband. That's one of the things he makes mention of. And you see that with Sayyidina Ammar, and watch the Shaqiyya there. Watch it. So half of it weird. Obviously, doesn't mean Shaqiyya. She's not Shaqiyya, yani. She's Sayyida, yani. Sayyida, mashallah ta'ala. But still, he's just saying, make sure she ain't upsetting the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ammar said to Salama radha'anha wardaha. So this is I'm good with children. And he was good with children, isn't it? Subhanallah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Marabbi al-kull, yani. One who raises them all. And then the third of them, what she say to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this one, the most important one. She said to the Rasul, Ya Rasulullah, that al-ghayra. Look, that al-ghayra. What's that al-ghayra? Ya Rasulullah, you love women. Yani. You love women. I don't know if I can handle that one. I don't know if I can handle that. And then the Rasul said, I'll make dua for you. I will make dua on that one, because you're going to have to handle that one. Yani. And then she marries the Prophet, the rest history. Salama towering, not the Nasiha, Wazira, Alima, that woman towering, Salama, of the great wives, right? Leadership, yani. That's leadership. Salama, leadership amongst the wives. That's what he used to say. And again, it's all play, yani. No one take it seriously. No one start taking it seriously and delil for this and delil for that. But you say the wives of the Prophet are divided into two camps. So, two camps. So obviously Aisha and Hafsa, they've got their camp sorted there, Aisha and Hafsa. So they're on one side of the camp. And then the other side of it is Salama, led, split into two. Salama is the leader of the other camp. And quote with her right hand woman say Zainab bin Jahash. So these are like the two camps amongst the wives of the Prophet side. Friendly but beautiful. And that just shows you people naturally, isn't it? It's friendship. You incline towards one, you incline away from another. The Prophet was talking the metals, arwah, junudul mujannada. As he says in Bukhari, souls are arrayed soldiers. Souls, yani. Souls always find themselves with their like, yani. But she's leadership. And even in difficult moments, they say that the Medina, in the tradition Medina, like always wants to gift the Prophet give gifts to the Rasul. They gift the Rasul, and sure, like I think a beautiful narration we mentioned yesterday about Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, a beautiful narration that Medina, when they gifted the Rasul, they would always gift Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Always, yeah. Because of his makana with the Rasul, he's the first house the Rasul stays in. So they're going to send gifts to the Prophet. They'll always send a gift to Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. I think it's a beautiful sort of, how can I say, like science of giving. That one. And this religion is a religion of giving, lest we forget. Then the second of them, I think is beautiful, Yani, is that they want to give the Rasul when he's most happy. Why? Because Yani, human being, we're human, innit? Yani, why do you give? To get. You give to receive. No, you shouldn't do that. Whatever. We're right now to the core of the fabric of the human soul. You get human beings in their core, in the depths of their soul, they're going to give to receive. There's something they want back. That's why Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah ta'ala, says altruism is a lie. It's a lie, altruism. That you give without any even deep inward inclination that you want to receive back. So Medina want to receive from the Rasul. They want from the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what you want, the biggest gift you could ever get from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not dunyawi, it's ukhrawi. You want something ukhrawi from the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So how then do you do that? Give him on his happiest day. What does Medina somehow figure out? I don't think it was hard to. His happiest day is his days of Aisha. When the Rasul is with Aisha, the Rasul is at his most happiest, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Medina conspires, I don't say it was a conspiracy, like, for those of you who like conspiracy theories, Medina conspires to only give on the day of Aisha. Only give upon the day of Aisha. And the wives ain't happy. Especially the clan of Salama today. So what they do now, they all gather around Salama, I'm to show you leadership. Go and speak to the Rasul. Go and speak to the Rasul. Salama has to do it. She's the one who's been elected to go to see the Rasul and say, look, it's not right. On the minbar, tell Medina, don't distinguish the day of Aisha. Any day they should give. Sure, they should give it any day. The Rasul was vexed. And she told the Rasul vexed. And remember the Rasul, as Aisha herself tells you, he doesn't get angry for himself. He get angry for himself. Aisha tells us that in Bukhari. Sure, for Salama towering, mashallah ta'ala. That a great woman, radiallahu anha, wa Hind bint Abi Umayyah, radiallahu anha, wardaha biography. She died in the 62nd year after the migration. She was the last of the wives of the Prophet to die. Although as we said that it was Maymunah, the Rasul when the Rasul towards the end of his life, he said, the first one of you to meet me in the barzakh is the one who has the longest hand. Who has the longest hand? Heck, the Prophet said. So look at the wives. You start getting up. Look at them. They all want to be the first. They're all measuring their hands to see who's got the longest hand. So they can be the first to meet the Rasul in the barzakh. You ready? Like who's going to die first after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Longest hand, whom? Salama. Look, she has the longest hand. But as they say, time is a great interpretator of events, is it not? Who passes away first? Zainab bin Jahash. So Zainab bin, and you realize, metaphor, isn't it? It was all metaphor. Longest hand, the most generous. The most generous of you will be the first to pass away. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. That's in Zainab bin Jahash. But when you can look at the tradition, like Salama was the last. She wasn't the first, she was the last. And you can imagine, and it's like the hadith you looked up with Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As. It felt good at the moment, didn't it? At least she had many days, weeks, months. And in the year is even, believing, it's going to be me, It's going to be me. But then, Sayyidina Zainab bin Jahash beats it to the barzakh. Radiallahu anha wardaha. MashaAllah. Beats it to the barzakh. Radiallahu anha wardaha. Remember saying Salama radiallahu anha wardaha. The last. Saying Salama, I mean, subhanallah. I mean, for the martyrdom, saying Hussein, saying Salama radiallahu anha wardaha. He's still up on the face of the earth. I know that pain for Salama, isn't it? Subhanallah. Radiallahu anha wardaha. The Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam also married Zainab bin Jahash. Radiallahu anha wardaha ibn Riyad, ibn Ya'mar, ibn Sabira, ibn Murra, ibn Kabir, ibn Ghanam, ibn Dudan, ibn Asad, ibn Khuzayma. She was the daughter of his paternal aunt Umayma, the same as Zainab bin Jahash, radiallahu anha wardaha, the cousins, and that in terms of full mother, Yani she's the closest of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, it being a cousin. And again, you get all qaidas from this. He marries first cousin, he doesn't marry first cousin. He marries a woman from the clan, he doesn't marry a woman from the clan. He marries a woman from the tribe, he doesn't marry a woman from the tribe, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. He marries Arab, he marries non-Arab. He marries Muslim, he marries non-Muslim. You get the point? You look at, it's amazing we have to look at the science of the women the Prophet chooses. You want to look at what's the ultimate theme? Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is pulling the rug of excuse from under your feet, yani. Pulling it from under your feet. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So this is Zainab bin Jahash radiallahu anha wa ardaha. And obviously Zainab bin Jahash, she died in Medina in the 20th year after, and was the first of the wives that died, and the first to be carried on a biya. The biya, and not the coffin, but the stretcher, and the first of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on the biya, because she's the first to pass away, yani from those who the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam married, and who were alive when he passed away, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Obviously Zainab bin Jahash, likewise great, yani very, very great woman, radiallahu anha wa ardaha, abida, and abida, of intense in worship, yani. Like he said, like Zainab bin Jahash and Sayyidina Aisha, they in a sense, they were the most competitive. Those two wives, Sayyidina Aisha and Sayyidina Zainab bin Jahash, radiallahu anha wa ardaha, competitive, but amazing, yani. Like if you ask Aisha about Zainab bin Jahash, nothing but good to say about her. No, abida, sadiqa, karima. That is one who worships God. She's truthful, she's sincere, she's generous, I can only but praise. Even in the ifk there, in the false accusation against Aisha, radiallahu anha wa ardaha, look at the Rasul. It is interesting, the science, yani. When they leveled the false accusation against Aisha, radiallahu anha wa ardaha, which Allah Ta'ala, the Bari'ah, Aisha the Bari'ah, Allah speaks from beyond the heavens about the purity of Sayyidina Aisha, radiallahu anha wa ardaha. The Rasul, why? The Rasul wants to show you, yani nu'mar bidhawahil al-umur, yani regardless of what you know, yani, you often have to take, quote unquote, the outward of things to ascertain the truth. So the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wants a character reference for Aisha. You ready? Now, you want a character reference to Aisha, you can ask Aisha. Go and ask Aisha's father, isn't it? Maybe it's better to go and ask his mother, Roman. Father and mother should know about. Yeah, go and ask, hey brother, and I mean Abdullah, or hey brother, Abdul Rahman, full brother, knows his sister well. Many people you could ask about Aisha. Go and ask your half sister Asma. Sure. Many people you can ask. Look at the Rasul side, character reference is going to ask one of the wives. Now that, like, shuf, that is a testimony to their relationship, isn't it? You can ask the wives about whom Aisha, character reference. They're not any wife the most competitive. Zainab bin Jahash. The Rasul can ask Zainab bin Jahash radiallahu anha about Aisha. Zainab bin Jahash, she's got nothing but good to say about Aisha. And that's their wit, I know nothing but good about her. Although they were the most competitive, them two of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you say, well, what were they competitive over? Rasulullah. I think that's the theme there, isn't it? You with it, Mansoor? You got me? They're competitive over the Rasul, and that's how we all should be, isn't it? Like, it's who can get closest to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who can receive the most from the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Heck, the wives are teaching us of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidina Zayd bin Jahsh. Remember, she was married to whom? To Sayyidina Zayd ibn al-Haritha. So that was the first husband, Sayyidina Zayd bin Haritha. And then Zayd mentioned in the Quran because of his marriage to whom? Sayyidina Zayd bin Jahash radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha. And thereby when Sayyidina Zayd radiallahu anha wardaha, radiallahu anhu wardahu, divorces Sayyidina Zayd bin Jahash, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala marries. That's Allah alam the fakir, subhanallah. Masculinity is beautiful. When you see true masculinity, like true femininity, but I'm just want masculinity. Beautiful to see beautiful to see true humanity. Beautiful to see true masculinity. Beautiful to see true femininity. Beautiful, yani. And so you see, and obviously with the Rasul, you see it often. And so one of the things which is beautiful is the Rasul now married to Sayyid in a riwayah, he's married to Sayyid Zayd bin Jahash. So the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes to the house. Who marries? Allah. I mean, there's no father, mother, brother, not that area. Allah marries the Prophet said, when we married you to her, Quran, Allah lost of the Quran, when we married you to her, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. So the Rasul is the riwayah, the Rasul sends somebody. There's a riwayah there that he sends, the Mawali there to go and inform her she'll be married to him. You know the riwayah, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this is the masculinity. He comes to the door sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Zainab bin Jahash there, well, obviously she's behind the curtain and what have you, and she is behind the curtain. And so the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Rasul open the door, Rasul doesn't walk in, Rasul doesn't walk in the house, so she doesn't know she'll be married to the Rasul. Rasul doesn't walk in. So when the Rasul just walks in, and maybe quote unquote, she's not decent, but she is decent, but not decent if you get my point. She just grabs the curtain. She begins to hide. The Rasul walk in. The Rasul like, I'm your husband. That's a masculine moment. I'm your husband. Who that care now? And as soon as she hears, I'm your husband, you be married to me. Look, from hiding behind the curtain, she goes into sujood. You see the beauty of that? Straight down into sujood. Radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha. Sayyidah Zainab bin Jahash. Radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha. And she was like 36, 37. Sayyidah Zainab bin Jahash. And the Prophet ﷺ married. She was the ones in the 30s when they married the Prophet ﷺ, Zainab bin Jahash. Great, towering, radiallahu anha warda, abida, karima, very, very generous. That's what's the longest hand. She has the longest hand, the most generous of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ also married Juwayriyah, the daughter of Harith ibn Rabī, Dirar ibn Habib ibn Aid ibn Malik ibn Mustaliq. She was initially taken as a captive of war during the battle of Banu Mustaliq, Muraysi'. And the battle of Muraysi', and had fallen into the hands of Thabit ibn Qais ibn Shammas, okay, who had entered into a contract with her to free her. Okay, so she's taken as a captive of war, quote unquote, enslaved in the battle of Muraysi', and the leader of Banu Mustaliq against the Rasul was her father, Harith ibn Abi Dirar. He was the one who led the forces against the Prophet and defeated at the battle of Muraysi'. But he's later, mashallah ta'ala, himself is going to enter in the fold of Islam, mashallah ta'ala, and become the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it all ends well, that narrative. But that narrative all ends well because of her. I say it to Juwayriyah radiallahu anha wardaha. As I said it to Juwayriyah radiallahu anha wardaha, and she's been married before, remember. 15 years of age. She's 15 when she marries the Prophet. 15 when she marries the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Juwayriyah. And the Rasul, his second husband, at 15 years of age. And so now saying to Juwayriyah radiallahu anha wardaha, she's enslaved with the hakada issue of war, as is her tribe. And now as a captive of war, booty, spoils of war, she's placed in the hands of Sayyidina Thabit ibn Qais ibn Shammas. Thabit ibn Qais ibn Shammas, the supreme orator of the companions. The orator of the companions, Sayyidina Thabit radiallahu anhu wardaha. Okay, and so now she comes to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Did you get the text here? So she went to the Messenger of God ﷺ, asking him to help her with regard to her contract for freedom. She got to get out of slavery. She was a wise and beautiful woman, like really beautiful, but very, very wise. And no doubt her coming to the Rasul ﷺ was a manifestation of her wisdom. She knew exactly what she was doing. And so the Rasul says to her, Allah, but I would believe he's reading her heart. Maybe something even better than that. Maybe something even better than that. I'll settle your contract for freedom on your behalf and marry you. Yes! 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 That's what she came to the Rasul for. She immediately accepted without hesitation, without any hesitation whatsoever. So the Rasul settled the contract and married her. Is it not? And the Rasul said, what's the dowry? What dowry do you want? She said, the freedom of my people. I want all of them who've been enslaved, I want all of them freed. And so mashallah, came to pass. And all that. And then Aisha wardaha used to say, and Aisha used to say about her, she's sweet and beautiful. Like all the wives of the Rasul were beautiful. The Rasul loved beauty. So all the wives of the Rasul were beautiful. You say, well, beauty in the eye of the beholder. Well, he is the beholder. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And the wives can be like that. It's like saying Aisha comes to Hafsa, her best friend. It's when the Rasul says about it, says Salama. Aisha crying. What's your problem? Aisha said, she's just too beautiful, Yani. She's just too, like Salama was just too beautiful. And Hafsa goes, no, calm down, Yani, calm down. It is not as you say, Yani. And I was like, you reckon? I reckon. It's not as you say. You just got to sort of temper it a bit, and it's not as you say. He said, no, but have you seen her? What have I ever seen her? It's not as you say. She's not as beautiful as you say. Yeah, she's not as you say. So Hafsa then goes, oh my God. I was like, oh, she's certainly beautiful, Yani. But look, she dealt with Aisha, got Aisha to calm down a bit, but now she's got to deal with it herself, Yani. What Aisha used to say about Juwayriya, she was beautiful, Yani. And in praise, she used to praise Juwayriya. Juwayriya on her camp, Yani. Juwayriya ends up in the camp of Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha. He also married sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Safiya, and bint Huyay, the daughter of Huyay ibn Akhtab ibn Sa'na, ibn Tha'lab, ibn Ubayd, ibn Ka'ab, ibn Khazraj, and Nadiriya, who was from the line of Aaron. She's Haruniya, Jewish. This is Khaybar now, in the siege of Khaybar. And so she's obviously Jewish of line, and the Rasul marries her as someone of Jewish of line, and the belief is in the beginning, since Safiya radiallahu anha is not even Muslim. And so this is like a legitimization of marrying from Ahlul Kitab, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so Sayyidina Safiya was taken as a captive of war at Khaybar and was immediately set free by the Messenger of God, so as they were rendered her dowry, the price of her freedom. Sayyidina Safiya, likewise, Safa purity, yani. Safa that is pure. Her name Safiya. What the pure one? They said Safiya. She's pure. What's Sayyidina Safiya? Like she said, Safiya, like she was like master cook, yani, in the kitchen, cuisine. I said it to Safiya. So once she's going to cook food for the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is a purity because it's innocent. She's going to cook food for the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it's like Aisha's day. So the day of Aisha, she brings all this really good food for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Aisha takes the plate and Aisha puts it right in her face, yani. Right inside of her face, yani. She falls down. I look at Safiya, look at her, she's innocent. Like the beauty, she's on the floor, she's trying to pick everything up. You can see the scene, yani. And the Rasul there. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Aisha, subhanallah. Don't mess with Aisha, yani. Don't mess with Aisha. Aisha, from her name, alive, the living one, yani. Aisha alive, radiallahu anha. Aisha put it right in her face. But the beauty of it, look, Safiya innocent there. Because Allahu Alam, that one could have been predicted, yani. That one could have been predicted how Aisha was going to react at that moment, yani. But just the beauty and the innocence of her. Like you see, Sayyidina Safiya, she has a husband named Rabī, her first husband. First husband. He was Jewish from Banu Israel, from the people of Khaybar. They killed at the Battle of Khaybar. So Sayyidina Safiya, in her innocence, she has this really beautiful dream. Right? You know those dreams? Like, so she has this dream, and in the dream, she's on this really beautiful, like Shanfara in his poem. He says, Wallayl Mukbira. It's one of those, it's the night when the full moon is really in its splendor. And all the elements are conspiring to sort of enhance the beauty of the full moon. How can she is? She's just there in her dream, gazing at the full moon, enamored by it. Then the dream, the full moon drops out of the sky, right into her lap. Imagine a dream with the full moon enters into your lap there. She's got the full moon. So Sayyidina Safiya wake up, and the dream just has so much impression upon her. So Sayyidina Safiya now goes to tell a dead husband. She goes to tell her husband, like, this dream on the night, and there's full moon, and the full moon drops out right into my lap. So he just slaps her across the face. Slaps her one time, because he's mu'abbir. He can interpret the dream. And he says to her, you desire to be married to the king of Yathrib, meaning the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He understood the full moon was the Rasul, the Badr al-Badur, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You desire the king of Yathrib. And like she's so innocent, But Faqih's interpretation, like now, is that what the dream was? Yeah, I mean, that could have come to pass. He could have fallen to my lap, and it came to pass. Yeah, sure. For him, yani, al-bala mu'akkal bil-mantiq now, isn't it? Sure. Tribulations for him tied to what you said. Either ubbir waka'. Isn't it? Now, when you express it, it comes to pass, and it came to pass at your expense. Allah Ta'ala sent you to the barzakh and to be raised, to be sent to hell forever. Sure. Subhanallah. And Allah Alam, maybe that returns just to slapping that beautiful woman there. You never know, like Allah Alam, Yawm al-Qiyamah, Tubal as-Sara'ir, well, the reasons become clear. Why something get clear? Like, what was the pivotal moment in his life that Allah Ta'ala decides, Allah Ta'ala decides to send him to hell forever? It's like the day Abu Jahl, look at the description there, the day Abu Jahl slapped Sayyidina Fatima Zahra. Abu Jahl slapped Fatima Zahra at Mecca, the age of Mecca. So Fatima Zahra alayhi salam comes to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam and tells the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam that Abu Jahl slapped me. She's a young girl again. So the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam tells Fatima Zahra, go to Abu Sufyan, Sakhr ibn Harb. Go to Abu Sufyan, tell him what had just happened. Abu Sufyan's not going to stand for that. So Fatima Zahra goes to Abu Sufyan, leader of Kufr at the time, along with Abu Jahl, tells Abu Sufyan what Abu Jahl just did. So Abu Sufyan takes Fatima Zahra all the way to Nadwar at the Kaaba. So what does Abu Sufyan do? Bam! Slaps Abu Jahl one time. He said, it's sufficient that we have a problem with their father. The girl's got nothing to do with it. Like, what are you bringing the girl into this for? He slaps Abu Jahl one time, yani. Fatima Zahra. So she goes back to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Rasul ﷺ says, ماذا فعل Abu Sufyan? Like, what did Abu Sufyan do? Slapped him. The Rasul raised his hand, Allahumma la tansa hada. Oh Allah, don't forget this, don't forget what he just did. So that's the pivotal one for Abu Sufyan. Even our team, we took this from our teachers, Yani. Our teacher was saying, Shuf, he said, even when we get to the battle of Khandaq, even at Khandaq now, where the Rasul ﷺ now wants reconnaissance from the enemy troops from the Ahzab. And the Rasul ﷺ wants to call a Sahaba to go retrieve information. Bitter cold day. And saying, Hudhayf ibn Yaman says, I know he's going to call my name. Rasul said, Man yati bi khabar al-qawm? Who's going to bring news of the enemy? The Rasul is asking. He said, oh, the Sahaba saw me too. They're all quiet. And Hudhayf in his heart said, I know he's going to call my name. He's going to call my name. Man yati bi khabar al-qawm? Who's going to bring news of the enemy? And the third time, Man yati bi khabar al-qawm? Nobody answers. The Rasul said, Hudhayfa. Hudhayfa, Sahib said, Hudhayfa. Sam'an wa ta'atan ya Rasulullah. So said Hudhayfa comes to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, Iti bi khabar al-qawm. He said, go and bring news of the people. He said, the Rasul ﷺ, he said it was cold, bitter cold. He said, the Rasul ﷺ just takes hold of me and embraces me. He said, when the Rasul ﷺ embraced me, he said, like I had a protective shield around me. And I just suddenly became so warm. Hakada, shuf. On this cold day, that cold was one of the elements that destroyed the Ahzab on that day. So Sayyidina Hudhayfa, he goes now to penetrate the Khandaq, the ditch, and the Rasul calls him up, Ya Hudhayfa, khabar al-qawm. He said, news of the people, reconnaissance. La taf'al shay'an. Do not do anything. Just bring news. Don't do anything. Hudhayfa says, I penetrate, I get right amongst them. He said, it so happens, look at the Rasul at the right time. As I get there, Abu Sufyan has called a meeting with all of the Confederacy army, 10,000. Yeah. Abu Sufyan, who's the leader, the same Abu Sufyan we're speaking about. Abu Sufyan's called a meeting now, and Abu Sufyan is speaking of what's gone wrong. The relationship with the Jews has gone wrong. The Ghatafanis have nearly been bought out by the Rasul. Not that they were bought out with the dates of Medina, but they were going to leave the Ghatafanis upon dates from Medina to Munawwara. So then, the elements, the bitter cold, the violent wind that Allah Ta'ala said, the enemies that you do not see have been sent, ripping up their tents, their pots were being ripped up. Like it was tornadoes that are going on. So Abu Sufyan said, look, first thing Abu Sufyan says, he says, Shuf, first, we may have enemies amongst us. Look, Abu Sufyan intelligent. There may be enemies, spies amongst us. Let every man know their companion. Before I speak, let every man know their companion. See if you have an enemy. So Hudayfa said, what are you doing? Hudayfa said, grab the man next to me. Who are you? I know you've never seen. He's like, no, don't worry, I'm good. I can't. Hudayfa intelligent. So Hudayfa puts him off the scent. I got to face him and say, no, Hudayfa does. Then he says, after that, then Abu Sufyan starts announcing, we're leaving, we're getting out. I don't know about you, battle's over. It's the end of the Battle of Khandaq. So now everyone begins to scatter, everybody's gathering their goods, packing their beasts. You want to go back to their relative homes, I think the Confederacy Army. And then there's Abu Sufyan packing his bag. And then saying Hudayfa, he sees what everybody should running. He looks right at Abu Sufyan, who's the leader, Abu Sufyan. Hudayfa looks right at him, takes out his quiver, arrow out, bow, loads up to kill him. Yeah, he loads up to kill him. Then he just remembers, Hudayfa, خبر القوم لا تفعل شيئا. He said the words ring in his head. Takes the arrow out, puts it back in the quiver, bow, hits the ditch to tell the Prophet what has occurred, Daddy. Sure. He said, that day, look, Allahumma la tansa hada. Oh Allah, don't forget this. Abu Sufyan preserved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to become a person of faith, Yani. Sure. How can you see these sort of the narratives of the opposites, Yani? Subhanallah. We ask Allah Ta'ala for tawfiq. This is Safiya, radi anha warda, the daughter of Huyay ibn Akhtar, ibn Sa'na, ibn Tha'lab, ibn Ubayd, ibn Ka'ab, ibn al-Khazraj, and Nadariyah, who's from the line of Aaron, Harun alayhi, and she's Haruniya. Now, even when the women used to make the, you know, how kind of they can be, Yani when Safiya used to come crying to the Prophet and the women, the women are calling Yahudiya, you're Jewish, Yani. How kind of the Arabiyat, Yani. And the Prophet says, don't worry, let's go to them and tell them, which one of you has a husband as a prophet, a father as a prophet, and an uncle as a prophet? Because she's Haruniya, line of Aaron. Most Jews, line of Aaron. That's her father, who wants. Brother of Aaron, of Harun, Musa. She has an uncle as a prophet. And like the rest of them, but she's married to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And obviously they got it. They're from the line of Ibrahim, Ismail, but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Safiya radhiyallahu anha wa Nadiriyah, was on the line of Aaron, upon whom he praised and peace. She was taken as a captive of war at Khaybar and was immediately set free by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who rendered her dowry the price of her freedom, radhiyallahu anha wa. She died in the 15th year after the migration. May God be pleased with her, mashallah ta'ala. And she used to maintain Banu Israel, and that's beautiful. Silat al-Rahim. So the Jews, and if the Jews, she used to maintain them, treat them well, give charity to them. And again, that beautiful, really, really beautiful. He also married Sayyidina Maymuna, the daughter of Al-Harith ibn Hazir ibn Bujayr ibn Harim ibn Ruwayba ibn Abdullah ibn Hilal ibn Amir. Okay? This is Sayyidina Maymuna, who was the last of the wives that is agreed upon that the Prophet married. And subhanAllah, the Prophet in Sarif, he married in a place called Sarif, beyond Mecca, beyond the Haram of Mecca there. And the Prophet, the place he married her is the exact place she died decades later. Beautiful, exact place she married the Rasul is the exact way she passed away. It's saying to Maymuna, radiallahu anha, wardaha, and she was the maternal aunt of both Khalid ibn Walid and Abdullah ibn Abbas. And her mother's name was Hind, that's what the maternal aunt. Her mother's name was Hind. And the mother of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, Fadl. The mother of Abdullah ibn Abbas, her name is Lubaba al-Kubra. Lubaba al-Kubra. That Lubaba al-Kubra is the full sister of Maymuna, Lubaba al-Kubra. Okay? And the mother of Khalid ibn Walid, her name is Lubaba al-Sughra. Both had, she's called the younger Lubaba. Okay? Full sister of Maymuna. Okay? We spoke, I think it was yesterday, we spoke, I believe, about whom? About saying Asma bint Umays. So Asma bint Umays, who shrouds Sayyidina Fatima Zahra, Sayyidina Asma bint Umays. Half sister, same mother. So Asma bint Umays and the daughters of Umays, they all have what? They're all half sisters of Maymuna, radiallahu anha. Well, that's why they say their mother Hind, she's Yemeniya, their mother Hind is what? She said, there's nobody who has greater relationship, son-in-laws than her. His son-in-law was the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His son-in-law was Khalid ibn Walid. His son-in-law was Abbas. His son-in-law was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. His son-in-law was Ali ibn Abi Talib. Shuf, son-in-laws that she has, mashallah ta'ala. Hind. She died in the 51st year after the migration, although it's also been said that it was the 66th after the migration. If that is affirmed, that she was the last of the wives to die. Between her and Salama, the discussion is about. With the notable exception of Khadija, these are the wives that the Prophet was married to when he died, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay? He brings in Zainab bin Khuzaymah. He brings in Zainab bin Khuzaymah. The Messenger of God sallallahu alayhi wa sallam married Zainab, the daughter of Khuzaymah, the mother of the poor, Masakin. And mother, she said, again, that name Zainab is a name of generosity. The name Zainab, that only carries the name Zainab, and you'll find that they're people of generosity. Everyone gets a portion of their name. And you can look through all of the people who carry the name Zainab in the age of the Rasul, like the Zainab, the daughter of the Rasul, saying Zainab bin Jahash has the longest hand, saying Zainab bin Khuzayba, Sakir, she used to buy and sell things in the souk of Medina, and just all for the poor. And look, the Rasul said, Zainab bin Khuzayma, 30 years of age. Person marries her at 30 and she dies at 30. Between 2, 3, some say maximum 8 months, she's married to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Only 2 of the wives died in the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, saying Khadija and saying Zainab bin Khuzayma radiallahu anha wardaha. But a really generous Masakin, and the mother of the poor, radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha. It's like you look at that tradition of Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mas'ud, the great Imam of the Sahaba, Allah bin Mas'ud, and his wife comes to Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Abdullah bin Mas'ud is called Ibn Abd. Allah bin Mas'ud, فقراء الصحابة رضي الله عنه وارضاه. فقراء, he said, he's the Imam of Waqi'ah. He relates the hadith of Waqi'ah, that Waqi'ah protects you from poverty, and he just leaves his children Waqi'ah. Abdullah bin Mas'ud wouldn't take a single penny from the state. Wouldn't take a penny. Wouldn't take shuf. Never. Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Anyway, his wife comes to Abdullah bin Mas'ud, and she asks Abdullah bin Mas'ud, Imam of knowledge, she asks him, if a wife gives money to her husband, is it sadaqah? Is that charity? She looked at the reward of it, is it charity? So Abdullah bin Mas'ud, look at Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he says, go and ask the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He knows the answer, but in a sense, it's coming ulterior motive, isn't it? Because he's poor, bereft of money, so he doesn't want to sort of, say yeah, and it is yes, but he doesn't want to say yes, such that because he's going to receive the money. But also, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, why you come to ask me for? Go and ask the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she goes to the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to ask the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I think the beauty of that, look at the access they all have. Remember saying Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiallahu anhu wardahu, he said when we first came to Medina from the Yemen via Habasha, when we first came to Medina to Munawwara, we used to believe Abdullah bin Mas'ud and his mother were from the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they came and went from the house of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam as if they were from the family. And he says, so Abdullah bin Mas'ud now, his wife goes, so when she gets to the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who's there? Sayyidina Bilal. She finds Bilal. So she says to Sayyidina Bilal, go and ask the Prophet ﷺ that if a woman gives money to her husband, is it considered charity or not? Does she get the reward of it for charity? But Bilal, don't tell him it's me. Just don't tell him, just ask the question, don't tell him it's me. So now Sayyidina Bilal goes in and asks the question to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, there's a woman at the door, and she's asking that if a woman gives money to her husband, is it considered charity? This is important. The Rasul ﷺ says, Men tesal. He said, who's asking? And part of you get from who's asking, because answers can be in accordance to who's asking the question. You get the point. The Rasul set principles here. Who's asking? So Bilal says, Zainab. He says, Zainab. So the Rasul says, you Zainab. Which Zainab? There's a lot of Zainabs in town, which Zainab is asking? What specifics? Which Zainab? And he says, Imra Abdullah, it's the wife of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and the Rasul also gives the answer, But sure, all I want from that, you see from that, the generosities of the Zainabs, You got the Zainabs. MashaAllah ta'ala, Allah ta'ala bless. Okay, this is Zainab bin Khuzaymah, of the greatest Zainabs ever, Her daughter of Khuzaymah, the mother of the poor, anha wardaha. 3 years after the migration, the Prophet married her, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, and she only remained there for a short while, 2 or 3 months, some say 8 months, before she died, radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha. Okay, they're the wives. So Faqih now is just going to read through the rest of them, just take a few questions and we're good. And we know it's been a long class, but obviously we only have a week left. We've got to try to read, make khatam, inshallah ta'ala, of the work, inshallah ta'ala. And so a lot of the durus that remain will be a lot of reading, inshallah ta'ala, to make sure we have a lot of chapters to go through. So I'm going to read through the rest of this chapter, and then we'll take a few questions, inshallah ta'ala. So they're the wives we're all familiar with. The way to the ways. The Messenger of God has married Zainab, the daughter of Khuzaymah, and so he also married Fatima, the daughter of At-Tahaq. So all these women from this point onwards, there's a difference of opinion, okay? Sometimes the difference of opinion is it's a strong opinion where it lends towards he did marry them. Others, it's weak that he did marry them, okay? And so it needs tafsil, it needs sort of to be detailed, but at least you get a sense that there are other women who had said that he did marry sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it varies in the continuum of strength to weakness. He married Fatima, the daughter of At-Tahaq, and gave her the choice when the verse of choice was revealed in Surah Al-Ahzab. She chose the world, so the Prophet divorced her. Allah Ta'ala given all the wives the choice to remain with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay? And then it's an issue of the akhirah. You got to reject the world, Surah Al-Ahzab, or choose the world, and the Rasul will let you go and maintain you, but he'll let you go. Divorce. So she chose the world, okay? She thereafter used to pick up dung and say, I am the wretched one, the shaqiyya. I chose the world. Okay? Most of the imams going to reject that, but again, Ibn Sayyid Anas, rahimahullah ta'ala, brings it. The Messenger of Allah also married Isaf, who's the daughter of Dihya al-Kalbi, radiallahu ta'ala anha wa radaha. He said that one pretty strong. Khawla, the daughter of Hudayl, it was also, she was Khawla bint Hakim, daughter of Hakim. She's the one who gave herself to the Messenger of God, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The woman, wahabat nafsaha, is known as inside of the seerah, a woman who just gives herself to the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Gives herself. Okay, so some say it was her, others say it was Shaykh Ansariya, from the Banu Ansar. And that's also important there. Because some people ask if the Rasul ever married an Ansari woman or not married an Ansari woman. Hakada Shaykh there from the Ansar, radiallahu anha wa ardahum. It said the Rasul sallallahu married her, or she gifted herself to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Asma, the daughter of Ka'ab al-Jawniya, the Prophet married, and Amra, the daughter of Yazid, and Ibn al-Jawn al-Kilabiyya, radiallahu anha. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam divorced her prior to having consummated the marriage. Ibn Sayyid Anas, he says, a woman from the tribe of Ghifar, the Banu Ghifar, the tribe of Abu Dhar, he saw that she had a form of leprosy. So he sent her back to her family, okay? And that obviously, it's an aib. And when you study Sharia al-Mutahara, due to sort of like physical issues, it can, and this is also an issue of law, physical issues, the marriage can be annulled, it can be annulled. That's something you study inside of the law there, okay? Likewise, also a woman from the tribe of Tamim, Banu Tamim, from the Najd, when he first entered upon her, she remarked, I take refuge in God from you. He immediately replied, may God protect the one who takes refuge in him. Go home, return back to your family. The Prophet says, I mean, subhanAllah, we often test the students with this one in the madrasa, with this one, just to see the minds of people. Because if you play out the entire tradition of the woman from Banu Tamim, is that the Rasul again shows you the life with his women, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Rasul marries a woman, and now the Rasul is going to now, the night of consummation of the marriage, the Rasul, that woman will go to the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they will prepare her to be with the Rasul. Subhanallah. So this Tamimiyya, Hakad tradition, she's taken to whom? Aisha and Hafsa. So she's with Aisha and Hafsa. So Aisha and Hafsa are preparing her to be with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Aisha and Hafsa say to her, look, we're going to tell you, what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam likes here. So the things to say to the Prophet as soon as he enters, first thing to say, Allahumma na'udhu bika minhu, oh Allah, I take refuge in you from him. You say that to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I got to do the statement here. I take refuge in God from you. Say that when he enters. This will give you the context here. So now, after preparing that, she goes and she waits for the Prophet to enter. And so the Prophet enters, and then she says to the Rasul, I take refuge in God from you. And to the Rasul's immediate response is, may God protect the one who takes refuge in him. May Allah protect you. The Prophet says, go home to your family, divorced. Sure. Something always to think about. But most people, when they think about it, they go wrong. People are smiling at me because I know the minds of people, it goes somewhere else. And why does it go somewhere else? Because you don't know the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And why does it go somewhere else? Because you don't know Aisha or Hafsa either. See how your mind works, really. So the reality is, and the reality here is Aisha and Hafsa are awliya. See, often you forget you're dealing with awliya here. When that woman, and yet there's a reason, you ask, well, what's the reason the Rasul will send a woman who's married to his wives? Haven't got the point? See, your mind may be looking at how it is outwardly, but the Rasul is sending that woman he's just married to awliya. And the awliya, yandur bi nurillah. They gaze with the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so now they see something in that woman. You get it? No. No. Because remember, many women pass that test, yeah. But they see something in that woman, yeah. And so now when she's in the presence of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, hakada. Araftum, go home to your family, yeah. Hakada the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yani a woman, yani, sallallahu alayhi from Tamim, yeah? Likewise, Aliyah, the daughter of Dhabyan, he saw him divorced her when she was first brought to him. Likewise, the daughter of Assault, she died before he was alone with her. Before he was alone with her. Some are of the opinion, like the daughter of Assault there, that she died before he was alone with her. She died when she heard she was married to him out of happiness. Subhanallah, isn't it? Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Likewise, Mulaika al-Laythiyah, when he first entered upon her, he said, give yourself to me. She replied, does a queen give herself to an ordinary man? And I'm just, the Faqih translates it as an ordinary man. Because, you know what I mean? But the word she used can be translated as an ordinary man, obviously, but, you know, a suqa. Yeah, sure. Rasul dismiss her, divorce her on the spot, yani, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Like you address that. You dress the Prophet in that way, yani. Subhanallah. Huh? The Messenger of Allah proposed to a woman from the clan of Murrah. Her father remarked, she suffers from leprosy. The dad's interfering now. Maybe the dad don't want the marriage or whatever. She suffers from leprosy. And this is said it was not the case. She didn't suffer from leprosy. However, when he returned home to his surprise, she suffered from leprosy. You see, Shuf? He likewise proposed to a woman through her father. He then described her, the father, to the Messenger of Allah, and added, moreover, you know, he tried to, like, in a sense, big up his daughter, yani. MashaAllah, father, blessed, yani. Then he says, oh, she's never been ill. Never ever been ill. And the Prophet ﷺ says it's not good at all in the sight of Allah Ta'ala. Somebody's never been ill. So the Prophet left her. What good is there in a woman who's never been ill? What good is there in a human being who's never been ill? So, after, subhanallah. Why? Well, what would you mean never been ill? Aina ajiduka ya Rabb. Look at the tradition of the Prophet of the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses Moses alayhi salam. And Allah Ta'ala says, I was ill and you never visited me. And Moses alayhi salam says, ill? Wa anta Rabbul Alameen? How could you be ill? You're the Lord of the world. And Allah Ta'ala reveals to Moses, Abdi, my slave was ill. And had you visited him, you would have found me with him. What good is there in a person who they never found with God? His dowry to his wives was 500 dirhams each. This is the most reliable position mentioned. The notable exceptions were Safiya and Habiba, radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een. Children of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Gender relations, subhanallah, subhanallah. Any questions, inshallah ta'ala, from the living? Yani? Do we have any questions, inshallah ta'ala? It's going to be brief tonight, inshallah ta'ala. Already about 12:30, yani. Inshallah ta'ala. Any questions? Go on, Miguel.
So I just wanted to ask, you know, in terms of people when I'm going to marriage, you know, many teams they look at reasons for staying in that type of marriage. And I know justifiable reason is a person's lifestyle, or they want to jeopardize their akhirah. But is it a justifiable reason? Because 8 out of 10 brothers would say that they love their wife so much that basically equates to exclusivity. So is that
Uncle Miguel, I'm not get what you're saying here.
Is that like a valid reason for a man to be in a monogamous marriage because he loves his wife so much? Is that like because in the society that we live in, because of Hollywood, they say like true love is basically when you're in a monogamous marriage. But then, and that's what people use as an excuse for staying in a monogamous marriage. But is there truth to that, or people somewhat deluded and insecure, hence why they think this?
Yani, Allahu Alam, man, again, I'm not sort of getting the full point of the question, yani. But yani, human beings different. Yani, remember, we started it with the Nubuwa, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ أُسْوَةٌ الْحَسَنَةٌ. The messenger of God, you have the best example, okay? And so, but at the same time, yani, okay, the best example. So the Rasul is an example for those who never get married. So there are those who genuinely are never going to get married, and they're genuine. The Rasul is an example for those who are in monogamy, and they're in monogamy, and they're genuine in their monogamy. And the Rasul is an example for those who are in polygyny, and they're genuine in their polygyny. بَلَ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا وَلَوْ أَلْقَى مَعَاذِيرًا. Allah Ta'ala said the human being knows himself best, even when he offers excuses. And so the issue is, Allah Ta'ala alam, yani, Allahu alam. We can't say like a person who sort of, is in a relationship with their wife, they're in monogamy, they love their wife so much, this, that, and the other, and that's true love for them. We can't say it's not true love. You get the point? Like, they know best whether it is true love. You get the point? Like, are they deluding themselves that really they love another woman and this, that, and the other? But could be the case, but it also could not be the case. They may be genuine in the fact that they are true in their love of their wife and their one and only. They may be genuine. And that's not a pronouncement that, well, and I think it's important, she's my Khadija. No, she's not your Khadija and you're not her Rasul. So let's just sort of take that out of our colloquial language there. This is my Khadija. Because it's a type of self-aggrandizement, is that she's my Khadija, and who are you then? What are you actually telling me about you? Are you the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Your wife is certainly not Khadija. And I think we have to be clear upon that. And that's not sort of looking down upon anybody, whatever, but let's understand we've got to look up to Khadija, the Kubra, the great one there. There will never be a Khadija ever, yani. That they're special there. Radiallahu anha wardaha. Okay? But that, nafsu li nafsi tasri, arwah junur al-mujannada, that she is suitable for you and you're suitable for her in that monogamy, of course, that can be the case. Beautiful, yani. And beautiful. And you'll find the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in that relationship. That's there. But then there's others, them, shuf, yani, are often, they're people of polygyny, yani. And they're sincere in their polygyny. They would live a lie if they were inside of a monogamous relationship. They would live a lie if they weren't even married. They'd live a lie, and I mean lie to the point of transgression of the law. You get the point? Human being knows himself best. Is that okay?
So what just basically was is there's this misconception that a man can't truly love a woman if she's not enough for him.
No, but that's batil. 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 Someone doesn't understand the human being, doesn't understand human emotions, doesn't understand love. Like, you can't truly love your father because you got a mother as well. And it doesn't, you get the point. Remember, love is an attribute of the heart. An attribute of the heart from a perspective, غير منقسم. These are metaphysical. They're not subject to sort of division or whatever. The heck of the nature of the metaphysics, yani. So that someone doesn't really understand, yani. Like, what does that mean? So the Rasul couldn't truly love Aisha because he was married to Hafsa, married to Salama. Yani, what are you trying to say, yani? And so on there. That's someone who's immature, yani. Immature, yani. Tayyib, question?
Yes, sure. So Safiya was a descendant of Haram.
Go on, no, this is I was going to crack a joke, but I've just did a class on the humor. How many times should you be married? Anyway, so that's a joke. That's a joke I was going to crack. But anyway, carry on, son. Carry on. Humor. The class started with the humor of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Might as well have a bit of humor in the spirit of the dars. Say again.
Anyway, so Sophia.
Carry on.
She's from Orange.
No, good. Yeah, sure. Carry on. Mansoor, don't ask questions like that again, Mansoor. Don't make me crack a joke to you, Mansoor. Okay, so we take a different question now. Whose question are we going to say? Go on. Mansoor, I'm not answering your question. Do you have any questions in the room, inshallah ta'ala? Any questions inside the room? Go on, Taha, go on, raise your hand. Go on, Taha, ask a question.
She's from the line of Harun, but in her lineage is So is that from her mother's side?
Yeah, remember in terms of Ka'b, since Sophia bint Huyay, Lakhtab there, remember he's Banu Nadir in terms of his father's line. So he's Arab in his father's line, he's Jewish in his mother's line. Remember, so Arab, that's how we could work between the lines of the Arabs and the Jews. Because the Arabs in terms of Nasab see him as one of theirs. But the Jews in terms of Mawdi', because remember the Jews, you're a Jew by virtue of who your mother is. You understand? Is that the question you're asking? No. Any questions? I'm just going to flip to a few of these online. I'm going to excuse me for the brevity, inshallah ta'ala. I dreamt last night that I'm in a gathering of us. Yeah, Allahu Alam about dream interpretation, inshallah. Again, we could try and keep up on topic so we can. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So he mentioned the dua for putting on clothes. The following word after the dua mentioned yesterday. Alhamdulillah li kasari hada. Yeah, and the dua that you use, it's good, mashallah ta'ala, dua. And again, the du'as of the Rasul, the greatest kunuz, the greatest treasures the Rasul left us is in du'as. Okay, a lot of du'as for any given situation. What's important that you take a du'a of the Rasul and then you bring it to life in that given moment. Did the early Muslims ever write letters to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu? If so, did he? Inshallah ta'ala, again, we just apologize. Wa alaikum assalam. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to try and keep on question on topic, again, due to the brevity of time that remains, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah ta'ala, yani dua, inshallah ta'ala, lahu, inshallah ta'ala. Ata yafta alayhi. What's the best way? Just learn the lineage of the Prophet. And again, the best way to learn the lineage of the Rasul is to memorize it and to rote memorize. At-tikrar yu'allim al-himar. Repetition teaches the donkey. The Imams of Hadramaut, they tell us, inshallah ta'ala. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You mentioned Imam Nawawi never got married. I've heard from one of the students that it is mentioned that the Imam instead had concubines. Do you happen to know if this is true? Well, the Faqih opened up that topic. The topic is about marriage. Did he marry or did he not marry? Imam Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala never got married. And why would Sayyidina Ali want to marry the daughter of Abu Jahl? Why would he want to marry her? Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu wa radahu. Yani, why? And one could speculate as to why, and I think the speculation could take you in several directions. But I'm saying Ali, but if I'm going to take it in maybe the most honorable direction, if you excuse me, and he's saying Ali bin Abi Talib rahimahullah ta'ala is bab Madinatul Ilm. Okay, he's the gateway to knowledge. Okay, and the gateway to knowledge here knows, as Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, of the great Imams of knowledge. They know nisf al-ilm husn al-su'al. Like half of knowledge is a good question. And so often, Sayyidina Umar, it's really pronounced in Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, very pronounced in Umar ibn Khattab. Umar ibn Khattab often will ask questions not for the benefit of self, for the benefit of others. Because with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in particular, often people cannot ask questions. Remember, Abdullah bin Abbas said the Sahaba never asked any questions. There were only 12 questions they ever asked, and they're all in the Quran. يسألونك عن, those verses. Sayyidina Abdullah bin Abbas rahimahullah ta'ala says. But Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar likewise would say, that's why they're so happy when the Bedouins come to town. Because the Bedouins will ask. And so the point, if you just, it's a way you can be interpreted, and that's what the faqih wants to stay upon. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib now is going to ask, so Fatima Zahra will be known. You get the point? Her maqam will be known. That the Rasul, because if you look at, if we put it in context, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib asks now, it's not like him wanting to marry the daughter of Abu Jahl. You get the point? He's asking, but the question is, why is he asking the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And then the second is then context. Why didn't the Rasul answer him? Why did the Rasul make a public announcement? So now maybe your mind could understand it's maybe saying Ali bin Abi Talib is asking, so now everybody knows the maqam of Zahr al-Batul alayhi salam. And that day will be an honorable way to see the situation. Okay? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Do we know if Khadija anha wa raha was alive when the beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said she was one of the best women in the world? Yep. The traditions are there. Yep. And please, can you clarify the difference between the riwayah and hadith? No. It's the science of hadith. In a former lesson, I understood that men were being discouraged from marrying a woman who was married before. No, you misunderstood wrong. You misunderstood wrong. No, you misunderstood. You understood wrong. That's not, men were not being discouraged at all. We were mentioning Shaykh Muhammad al-Jasus, rahimahullah ta'ala, who had that opinion for reasons. We were mentioning it as a point that one of the Imams had, which obviously is overwhelmingly khilaf. It goes against what the Imams hold in this regard. Overwhelmingly, certainly not being quote-unquote discouraged from marrying a woman who's been married before. Now our transmission, our teacher Habib Umar married Habab Noor, who'd been married before. No, that nubuwah there. Habib Umar, Habab Noor had been married before Habib Umar. And so, and that's our transmission. So how would we ever sit here and sort of encourage that? That's not encouraged, but again, and that's why it's important when we hear the dars to sort of to make sure we hear the entire dars and we're attentive to the dars and not sort of take one thing out and come to a conclusion that was not said. So definitely not out there, definitely not. So the form lesson understood that, no, their name that is encouraged to remarry. Okay. So I hope it's clear to you, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala bless you, inshallah ta'ala. Al-Mutahhir. If we have the opportunity to visit Sayyidina Khadija, can we ask her to save us on Doomsday? And then be rest, so then rest assured, Allah will not allow our children to be harmed on that dreadful day. Alhamdulillah. As you say, it's good to ask. Okay? But if you want the mother to answer, then I think Allahu A'lam, we should behave as a dutiful child, shouldn't we? We should be birrul walidain there. The relationship between children and parents is not just that you ask. And then the Prophet ﷺ, when he spoke about the parent going to the next world in Sahih Muslim, waladun salih. Okay, and waladun salih. They leave behind not just a child, but one who's righteous. That's what you owe your parents. And so likewise, our greatest mother there, Sayyidina Khadija radiallahu anha wardaha, we owe her salah, we owe her piety. Okay? And just to clarify so we don't misunderstand it, the Prophet ﷺ wanted to divorce Sayyidina Sauda because of her age. Just to clarify so we don't misunderstand it, the Prophet ﷺ wanted to divorce Sayyidina Sauda because of her age. The Prophet ﷺ, it's mentioned he wanted to divorce Sayyidina Sauda radiallahu anha wardaha. Okay? He wanted to divorce her, but then he didn't. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahu A'lam, the faqih is telling you, they lived happily ever after. Full stop. And that's full stop here. Let's not read anything in between the lines here. Okay? Allahu A'lam, we're trying to see how it all plays out. Let's look at it another way that maybe help the anonymous attendee. anonymity here in the rules is not really important. It's not really good, yani. Wait, got to know who we're speaking to, yani. And so the point what the Fiqh is saying, let's look at it another way. Let's rephrase the question because, as we mentioned, half of knowledge is a good question. Did the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ever divorce a woman because of her age? No. There's the answer. You ready? He never divorced a woman because of her age. And let's look at the opposite way. He never married a woman because of her age. Age is but a number. That's what we said. Okay? Mansoor, have you got it? You and all of your questions today, Mansoor. You got it, Mansoor? Mansoor makes me smile. And mashallah ta'ala, the way she was blessed. When we were in Slough, we went to some type of gangster's paradise, didn't we? Amen. What was that place we stayed in Slough? He said it. I heard the Fakir did not say it. Shaykh Ahmed is there saying, we stayed at a place where Mansoor had his walima, yani. The place where Mansoor got married. Mansoor, you can mute it all you want, son. I'm going to unmute it from here, inshallah ta'ala. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. Mansoor, subhanallah. Now, Mansoor's wife, Allahu Alam, was one of our favorite students, mashallah ta'ala. Raftam, in the history of the micro. And mashallah ta'ala. And you treated her like that? Mansoor, really. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Like, you owe your wife another honeymoon. That's what the Fakir will say. I know you're off to Morocco this week, inshallah ta'ala. Maybe you should take the wife alongside you, alongside the two children there. I'd say. COVID test. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. At what age is Sayyidina Fatima married to Sayyidina Ali? And Sayyidina Fatima radiallahu anha wardaha, married Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anha wardaha. She's like 21, 22 years of age when she married Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anha, in her 20s. And then there's difference of opinion when she was born. The strongest opinion of Sayyidina Fatima radiallahu anha wardaha, she's married in the year the Kaaba was rebuilt. So when we look at the reconstruction of the Kaaba, that's also the year Sayyidina Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. And it was built radiallahu anha. Well, she's in her 20s when she married Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib, rahimahullah ta'ala. You mentioned a few nights back that we live in an age where many of the awliya are hidden and few are manifested. The general is the kutub of the age. Type excludes the question, inshallah ta'ala. Did Sayyidina Hawa have multiple wombs? No, we're not saying she has multiple wombs. Like a womb, what we mean by when she's pregnant. That's what we're talking about. When she's pregnant with twins. And the next time she's pregnant with twins, one male, one female. Third time, not multiple wombs. Sorry. In terms of Aisha and Hafsa anhuma, why muthbita or manfiya? Where does this, so that's the issue of usul, yani, come into in terms of contradiction. Yani, what's the hikmah to in choosing? Yani, in the basic point there, that they say, alladhi ya'lam hujj alladhi la ya'lam. It's called ziyad al-ilm. The one who knows is a proof against the one who doesn't know. Like when somebody says this happened and somebody says it didn't, then the basis of it, this is usul now, the basis of it, it didn't happen. So now when they say it did happen, that's extra knowledge now. Like what's going to happen now in the next minute, the next hour, the next day has not happened yet. So the basis is the absence of the event. So when the event happens, that's now ziyada. I don't know someone trying to say this is usul. So when alladhi ya'lam, the one who affirms something, they're the proof against the one who doesn't affirm it. Because what they're saying, I have more knowledge about the affair than you. Okay? I got the issue here. And will our wives in this life be our wives in the hereafter? In the hereafter, will we have Hurul Ain as wives alongside our wives in the world? Yeah, so your wife in this world is your wife in the hereafter. What I mean by that, if you die married to her and she does not remarry, if she dies married to you, even if you remarry, okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala qada, Allah ta'ala decrees, you both go to Jannah, then she's your wife eternally inside of Jannah. Okay, you got the point? That's your wife. Your wife inside the Jannah, okay? Now it's an issue with the Hur al-Ain. The Hur al-Ain are not of the world. The Hur al-Ain are from the next world. The creatures that were created inside the paradise. Okay, so that's a sort of a separate question. And it doesn't sort of come into the issue of your wives or not your wives, yani. And your wives of the world or your wives of the world. And your wives of the world, either Banat Adam, the women of the world, yeah, they are infinitesimally more beautiful in Jannah than the Hur al-Ain. Make sure we also understand that as well. You're not going to, the Imam said, don't compare the Hur al-Ain to women of the world who enter into Jannah. I Banat Adam, from the daughters of Adam, alayhi salam. Finally, a modern issue for women nowadays is that men are given honors, especially as women don't like their men with other women. Finally, a modern issue for women nowadays is that men are given hurs, I misread that, are given hurs, Hur al-Ain, okay? And what are women given as their alternative of hurs? Why should there be an alternative? I mean, that day, Allahu Alam, the Fakir, honestly, I'm not saying yourself there is asking the question, Abdul Malik, mashallah, ta'ala bless you, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Questions are always intelligent here. So I'm not answering Abdul Malik here. But the question Abdul Malik is answering here is an oft question. Okay? And that question often, when it comes from a heart, it comes from a heart that is not upon fitrah. It comes from a heart that is not upon aboriginal purity there. Men are not women and women are not men. And that which women desire is not what men desire. And likewise, vice versa. And paradise, mimmeshtat anfus. Paradise is what the anfus desires in primordial purity. You get the point? So what a woman in purity desires, that's what she'll receive inside of Jannatullah. And a woman in purity is not going to desire a multiplicity of men. It's not going to. Okay? A man in purity will desire a multiplicity of women. Ordinarily. But there can be exceptions. Full stop, yani. Okay? And that did full stop. But that's the question you hear inside of this age. This age is a sick age, yani. It's sick. And I'm talking about as it relates to sort of genders, yani. It's sick, yani. Yani, can you make dua for Rayanara from Luton, his birthday today? Did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam have someone called Ruhana as what the right hand possesses? I said we're not getting into right hand possession. We know what happens when we do. Is the marrying of Ahlul Kitab still recommended in this day and age, especially in non-Muslim lands, as they become difficult, especially in rearing children, faith in Islam? I seek your school, but we get the question, like the school of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala can throw disdain upon a Muslim man in a non-Muslim land marrying a non-Muslim woman, although the Sharia also permits it, can throw disdain upon that. Because the school of Imam Malik can look at the societal influence. So if you marry, quote unquote, a Jewish woman in a land Jewish, or a Christian woman in a land of Christianity, then the society supports her over you as a Muslim. And then that comes into the issue of Tarbiyat al-Awlad and the raising of the children. So in terms of, I'm just looking at the question there, the school of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala can look upon it unfavorably in that regard, okay? But Allah ta'ala alam, what's best there, you look at your school. Excuse the long question. Well, since no woman reached perfection except the four blessed mentioned, then can we conclude there must be an aspect of feminine character that prevents women from doing so? And this may be the social relationships they hold with one another and all that entails, as is demonstrated by the al-Mu'mineen radiallahu ta'ala anhum, who shared in a secret they shouldn't have, although this feminine quality didn't ultimately detract from their greatness. Sayyidina Maryam and Asiya reached perfection, and they lived lives of total distinction from those around them, and a form of isolation, really. Is this a key part? Is this a key part of why they receive perfection? Why Sayyidina Khadija and Fatima anha correction? Yeah, Allah, let's, and maybe if we can attribute to the self, let's, when we swim at the perfection of Maryam, or the perfection of Asiya, or the perfection of Sayyidina Khadija, the perfection of Sayyidina Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anhunna alayhinna salam, when we speak about that, don't understand by that the woman with other women are not perfect. And that, make sure we don't understand that, because from the question, what we're getting here, the deduction, the extrapolation is that Aisha is not perfect, and Hafsa is not perfect, and Salama is not perfect, and Zainab bin Jahash is not perfect, and so on, radiallahu ta'ala anhunna. That they're wrong to think in that way. Remember, perfection is upon a continuum. And you'll get it in the tradition where the Rasul says, كَمُلُ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ كَثِيرٌ. A great number of men reach perfection. You must understand what he means there. Who is he speaking about? Prophets. The hadith, the context of the prophets. So now when he goes to Sayyidina Maryam and Sayyidina Asiya and Sayyidina Khadija and Sayyidina Fatima, what you must understand is the perfection of prophecy in them. So if you go to the broader discussion of us as Muslims in theology, was it not said Asiya was a prophetess? Was it not said Maryam, really strong, was a prophetess? Was it not said even now tradition Khadija was a prophetess? It's been said. Is Fatima Zahra alayhi salam not bid'atul Rasul, the greatest of all the prophets alayhi wasallam? So the perfection, there's a different type of perfection being spoken about here. And on the point of those 4 women, contextualize that. So now, yani, can the awliya be perfect? Yeah, but it's relative. It's perfection of wilayah here. It's not like perfection of nubuwwah. Just like perfection of nubuwwah is not perfection of risala. Just like perfection of risala is not perfection of Muhammadiyah. So we've got to be, you get the point. So again, we're just saying there, Salma, yani, let's not take it and like look at the opposite and now think we're dealing with imperfect women. How could it ever be said? Look, so we get it. How could it ever be said in knowledge of textual evidence of the perfection of Khadija that Aisha is better than her? And it was said by great minds. So they're not understanding that Aisha has been imperfect. There's a perfection in Aisha. Everyone got the point? But this is continuums that we're speaking about, that are relative to, quote unquote, each and every single one of them. Okay? Could the instance of Hafsa not being divorced be seen as the Prophet ﷺ wanting the world to know of her esteemed status? Well, that's definitely the case. And if Rasul married to somebody, that person's esteemed. If the Rasul maintains that person is esteemed. If the Rasul dies, you know, Sayyid Ammar ibn Yasir, when he stands up on the mimbar of Kufa, saying Ammar ibn Yasir, speaking about Aisha, I'm just giving an example, I don't want to go into context, but Aisha is the wife of the Rasul in Jannah. That's how he pronounces Aisha. The Rasul passes away married to a woman. She is his wife in Jannah, in wasila, yani. They say, look, the ittisab with the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are non-prophets who have stations in paradise hiding the prophets themselves in Jannatullah. The wives, okay, are from amongst them. And so, inshallah ta'ala, okay, could the incident of Hafsa not being divorced? Sorry, did Safiya become Muslim? Of course. Yeah, she becomes Muslim or remain Jewish. She's Jewish in stock. But we talk about in faith, yes, of course she becomes Muslim, radiallahu anha wa ardaha, okay? And she's married to the Rasul, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We pray, inshallah ta'ala, I once read that the Prophet when Abu came and found one of his wives had fixed their dwelling, and the Prophet got annoyed, angry, and said, the way of spending the money is the money spent on the house. Did you come across this? Allahu alam. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Saint Sophia, we mentioned that. Muhammad, my name is Muhammad. How beautiful. I like that one, isn't it? Muhammad Ahmed, he says, my name is Muhammad. MashaAllah ta'ala. Allah bless you, inshallah ta'ala. Did any of the prophets, wa alaikum assalam, did any of the prophets' wives remarry after his passing? No. None. That the hurma, yani. None of the wives can remarry after the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Okay? None of the wives. And Shuf, note, and it's important, and again, people listen to the class as well here. Yeah, the tradition is a vast tradition. And a lot of things are going to be said. And so when the faqih is speaking, I must mention faqih is speaking in general, but also on the point as well. When the faqih is speaking, I'm speaking in accordance to everyone who's present, that people should be present. And you're speaking in accordance to what people should know. It doesn't mean there's other things that is known. And in Durus, one should be careful. In Durus, you should always be careful. Oh, well, I heard this and I read this and this over there. Because there's a lot of that. Sure. But the Prophet ﷺ, he said, it's sufficient stupidity for a man to relate everything that he's heard. It's sufficient stupidity. You should, whatever you've heard, you should weigh it upon the scales of benefit by saying it will someone benefit or not. Okay? And that relates to the one teaching, but also relates to the one who's listening and studying and asking questions as well. Okay? So let's be careful in that regard, inshallah. What happens if a woman marries twice? Which husband? The last husband. The opinion there is a woman marries twice, as she remarries, who's her last husband? Her last husband is what is the husband she has in paradise? That's a question there, Umar. Yani. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is there a time or age when one should be married? A man. Allahu Alam, I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not pretty sure. If this is our Aman, anyway, regardless of who the Aman is asking the question, as soon as, because you're aware there, is there a time or age when one should be married? If you're a man or a woman, as soon as, like, I've got Ustad Amir in front of me there, I'm saying like Muhammad Sharif. You get the point? Like, we don't want to see you hit 20 years of age and you're not married. We'll take your dad to account. Hiba! We'll even go back to Hiba there. Shuf, Araftum. Yeah, okay. This is our teacher, Habib Umar. None of us, culture, this society should come out of our teens not married. None of us. How could Habib Umar said? Habib Umar said. Okay? In this society in particular. Okay? Yeah, we've got to prepare for them to be married as soon as possible. Muhammad Sharif. Yeah, isn't it? Look at him, he's kind of shy, isn't it? The little one there. Yeah. I tell you, is it a time or age when one should be married? Rasulullah was that? When Rasulullah mentioned best women of the world, was that wahi? Was that wahi? Ay sunnah? Yeah, Allahu A'lam, I'm not answering the question, to be honest. And wasn't Maria Qubtiyya a wife too, Sharif? I think there's a bit of an obsession on your behalf, Yani, with another discussion, which is not the discussion here. As for Maria Qubtiyya, don't worry, Sharif, she's going to come later on in the text, okay? So it'll be mentioned who Maria Qubtiyya is, inshallah ta'ala, okay? And was Maria a wife of the Prophet ﷺ? No, she wasn't a wife of the Rasul ﷺ. If somebody, husband passes whilst they are married still, does she have a choice of whether or not to be with him in Jannah? In an instance where the marriage wasn't great to begin with. What she best do is she best get married. If she gets married again, then that's done. Okay, the issue obviously she doesn't get married. That's the issue. It's like the riwayah of maybe I know our sisters don't really like this, so I'm both will say it anyway. The riwayah of saying Ibn Ajiba there. They say Ibn Ajiba, like of his wives, he had a wife, and it seemed like she was a bit rough on him. Like his wife was a bit rough on him. The great Imam Ibn Ajiba, rahimahullah ta'ala, the Imam of the Maghrib, 13th century. And so she used to much, it was difficult for Sayyidina Ibn Ajiba, rahimahullah ta'ala. But the sir they did, like the Imams of Hadramaut ta'ala, the sir that the difficulty of the woman in such close proximity, and the opposite is what difficult of the man in a marital union, it causes taraqi, it causes ascension in spiritual degrees. Many a man attains wilaya with Allah ta'ala because of his wife. And many a woman attains wilaya. The great example, Asiya. Her husband was Fir'aun. Yani. Fir'aun was her husband. Yani Allah, her Rasul is her Rasul. But if you take with Zawahir al-Umur, Fir'aun was fundamental in Asiya attaining a degree with Allah. In the outward sense I'm speaking about. Have we got it? So Ibn Ajiba, his degree, often they say he had this wife, yani, and she was just difficult to say the least. Yani. But, mashallah, in degrees. Then his wife passed away. So he goes to her grave and divorced her. He divorced her 3 times. 3 times at the gravesite. After she passed, he divorced her 3 times. He said, dunya is one thing, but akhirah, no way, yani. Akhirah, no way. Ibn Ajiba, riwayah, subhanAllah. We took that riwayah from the grandsons of Ibn Ajiba himself. From the Ghimari, Shaykh Abdul Mun'im al-Ghimari. We took it directly from Shaykh Abdul Mun'im al-Ghimari, who's from the grandsons on his mother's side. He's from Shuf Kalam, yani. Subhanallah, isn't it? Cave. Well, the word from Ghifar was said back to my patches. Is this an indication that health conditions can be considered the reason to reject the person? Yes, they can. And also a reason for the marriage to be annulled. That's Sharia, yani. And how does one get married? But unfortunately, in this time, it's hard due to expectations. Isam, don't worry, make dua to Allah Ta'ala. And there's a lot of women in the world, yani. That's what Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a lot of women in the world, yani. A lot of women in the world. Can there be spiritual love between a man and a woman if they're not married? Like Allah A'lam what that means, yani. Like spiritual love. Yeah, Allah A'lam what that means, yani. Okay. If a prophetic advice for those who want to get married but are unable to should take to fasting, would this be like the fast of Dawood every other day, especially in this over-sexualized society? Whatever works. Remember the Prophet of lahu wija'. That's the key. That's what's wija'? It castrates. So fasting tempers the sexual appetite. So you must fast to the point that you realize it's been tempered. If you take the fast of Dawood, it's the fast of Dawood. Shuf. And that's what the faqih is saying. And Rehan, oh, you off again, Rehan. You leave all your questions to the end, Rehan. Rehan. The army of the Dajjal will have many women. That's your last question. Does television have a stronger deleterious effect upon women? Yeah. The qa'idah, the Imams, rahimahullah ta'ala, so even with the issue of the last question there, if you want women, I'm going to finish upon this question, is sur'atu ta'athur. Okay? Because people ask, well, why the majority of the army of the Antichrist are women? But let's not think about the majority of the army of the army of the Antichrist are women, because remember, a great number of the army of the Mahdi are also women. Make sure we understand that, yeah. Everyone got the point? Yeah. You follow me? Like in terms of a 40-60% ratio, men and women in the army of the Mahdi. So the conversation is balanced. So let's not take this conversation that there's something inherently wrong with women, dajjals, and all that type of stuff. I'm not saying you're taking it that way, Rehan, but I'm just trying to make sure, because we're in a data here, we don't know. You've got a lot of anonymous attendees, Just make sure no one misunderstands what's being said, But they say women, sur'at ta'athur. What's sur'at ta'athur? Women, higher emotive realities, they can be more easily influenced than men. That can be a positive, but it can also be a negative. You get the point? So here, why are they in the army of the Antichrist, women, and in numbers? Because of that. Surah Ta'athur. That can be took from our teachers, Surah Ta'athur. They can be easily influenced. But then at the same time, why are they in the army of the Mahdi in great numbers? Surah Ta'athur. And so rather than looking at women, let's start looking at environments. And that's what you're doing there, Rehan. Allah Ta'ala bless you. Like television. You get the point? And that's maybe the khitab here for women. And it's for men as well. Like you've got to be careful of your environment, And Allah Alam, Allah Ta'ala Alam, and I think if we take Rehan's question here to end with, I don't think Allah Alam is an age of, it's about speaking about women. Because we're in an age of al-mukhannathina min al-rijal. We're in an age of over-feminization. That's the age. The age is not an age of over-masculinization. It's not that age. It's not that yet. The age is, get the point, it's estrogen. It's that type of age we're in. You get the point? So, meaning what am I saying? That men, that we call men in our day and age, sur'at ta'athur. Same thing. That's what I say. The women are easily influenced, like the men ain't. Like the men ain't. You hear that? Like easily influenced, very clear to see, easily influenced at the age, yani. And that there, quote unquote, as the Imams rahimahullah, ordinarily in a society of purity, that's something that the attribution there is more so to women in purity. You get the point? But it's something across the board in our age in and of itself. And so we've got to be careful, quote unquote, in sort of in the narrative here, thinking that, it's the women there, I mean, they're the problem end of time. Well, sure, we all in a problem end of time. All of us, yeah. For same reasons, for different reasons, we all got problems. And overwhelmingly, again, we look in that mirror, our fear is not, how many women in the army of the Antichrist? Our fear is, will I be in the army of the Antichrist? You better personalize it inside of this age. We ask Allah Ta'ala for tawfiq. Allah bless you. It's 12:15. You're trying to head for sort of records, yani, of what time we're going to stay up till, yani. Maybe by the end we'll do a Fajr one. We've got to finish the book, inshallah Ta'ala. Although just as a point so people are aware, we're going to try to read the work, inshallah Ta'ala, Ibn Sayyid Nas, up to the last chapter. And then inshallah the khatam will be in Rabī' al-Thani. One, to get the meanings of Rabī' al-Thani, that is a continuation, but also what we really want is for the khatam to take place when everyone has the book in their hands, yani. I think that'll be a better khatam for us, inshallah Ta'ala. And so obviously the books are now being printed inside of Turkey now, so let's inshallah pray that they're here sooner rather than later, and that the khatam inshallah Ta'ala takes place with the actual book, the translation in hand, for all those who are present, inshallah. Allah Ta'ala bless you all, inshallah Ta'ala. Once again, forgive the faqir, inshallah Ta'ala, if there's any lack of adab, and likewise, inshallah Ta'ala, if we were going beyond go to portion time, inshallah Ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.